guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Anonymous Bites Back Asia episode 11 already. Um, we'll have a lot of different subjects today. Of course, we'll give coronavirus updates again, but we're also talking about India, riots. um, yeah.
It's a fun name.
Yeah, okay, I was just saying hi to our new guest, Riots Jane. So Sally starts laughing at the word riots, so it's going to be a good episode. Help everyone, you can help to share this episode because that's what we depend on. I mean, everywhere on social media, we and I know others too are dealing with censorship, with shadow banning too. If you talk about something that's important,
Hello?
I can hear you. If you talk about something that is important, then you will be shadow banned.
Uh,
Did I just drop out or?
maybe we just take over the intro.
Did I just drop out, guys? Or
Yes, you did.
and now I'm back. What was the last thing you guys heard?
Riots.
Did I announce our guest? Okay, like Ryan Jane.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay, sorry guys. I said I told listeners to please share this because that's what we depend on. I mean, you get shadow banned. If you say things which are important, which the people in power don't really like, you get shadow banned these days. It's very normal. But that's why we depend on people sharing all these episodes. So thank you anyway. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
I got the links. I think I've shared it to whoever I could.
okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a Discord issue or it was another issue on my end. I mean, maybe I just repeated myself, but it's fine. I mean, yeah. I don't know. What do you guys want to start about? Or do you want to? Do we give our weekly fires updates first, or?
We can do it later, maybe. Like there could be more to talk about. Like if we're gonna start with the update, it's gonna be long.
Okay, okay.
What about we start with Indian issue?
Guys, I think you guys have dropped out again. I can't hear y'all.
Can you hear us right now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great.
Just
Uh,
you.
yeah, I think I'm the only person. Um. Okay, I think we can start with perhaps the article 370, which is the Kashmir issue. Okay, shall we start with Kashmir issue? The Article 370 that you've just talked about before the live stream. Can you hear me?
Which gave special status to the state called Jammu and Kashmir. At the same time, they bifurcated the state of Jammu and Kashmir into Jammu and Kashmir as one union territory and the Ladakh region as the second union territory, uh, which means that the government of Jammu Kashmir no longer exists. As we all, as every state has a chief minister, they no longer have their own government anymore. But the Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh would directly be ruled by the president and the central government. Is that clear? And the Article 370, which gave special status to Jammu and Kashmir, also allowed the state of Jammu and Kashmir to have its own constitution. So they had their own laws, they had their own penal codes, which was different from the rest of India. And any law which was introduced in India would be applicable to all of India except for Jammu and Kashmir.
Can you also tell us a little bit about the difference in their law? Like, what will be implemented in the other parts of India that is not in Kashmir under the Article 370?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
The easiest of the laws that I can think of is the Indian Penal Code. So the Indian Penal Code basically and essentially lists, tells you what is a crime and what is not, what is legal and what isn't. For example, murder is illegal, of course. So, murder comes under certain sections of the IPC or the Indian Penal Code. But the Indian Penal Code was not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir before August 5. They had a separate penal code. It was called the Ranbir Penal Code, which is more or less the same, with barring minor differences here and there. It was just, as I mentioned, Jammu and Kashmir had its own constitution, so they had their own laws. Other laws which were applicable in India, for example, we have something known as the Central Bureau of Investigation. It's a police, basically, which is ruled by the center, and it covers, or basically it investigates crime of national importance. It covers corruption at the national level, which includes politicians, big businessmen, etc., etc. And the CBI was not applicable, or rather, the laws of the CBI was not applicable in Jammu Kashmir. But after the abrogation, anything and everything that is applicable to all of India is also now applicable in that union territory now. Is that a little clear?
Uh, yes, but
Or
I
is it a
also
bit
wonder, like,
confusing?
other than corruptions,
Mhm.
is there anything general on the public that would change, like the laws? Mhm.
The backward communities, which is the scheduled tribes, the scheduled castes, or the other backward castes. Way to make it simpler. um, laws or these acts would not be applicable in Jammu and Kashmir because, as I mentioned, they had their own constitutions. As per their own constitution, they would govern themselves as per that constitution, and that constitution was framed in 1948, about a year after India got independent. But now, last year they abrogated this Article 370, and now it's part of all of India. It was earlier also part of India, but now it's ruled and governed by just one constitution. Does that make it clear? No.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I mean, yeah, you know,
I don't know. I'm not getting any feedback from any one of you guys, so I don't know what's happening.
oh, it's okay. You know, like with
Oh, I think it's me.
information, we always just need a little bit of time to process.
Ah, okay. Am I speaking too fast? I've been told I speak too fast.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
You're
so
going good. Actually, I'm quite curious about one thing. Is that did they have like their own constitution because it's part? I think it's mostly because of their Muslim back the Muslim background of the area, right? That I heard that there's like somewhere like going 90% of Muslims.
Yes. So Jammu and Kashmir was is 90% Muslim. It is the only state which has a Muslim majority, overwhelming Muslim majority. And no, the special constitution or the special status they had was not because they were Muslim. It has a historical background to it. India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh was one country when the Britishers ruled us. In 1947, India was partitioned into two, Pakistan and India,
Mm.
or they wanted to stay with Pakistan. Jammu Kashmir at that time had a Hindu ruler, but the subjects were Muslim. So the Hindu ruler decided to come to India. But Pakistan and India, they have this historic enmity between them, and it has got a lot to do with the whole Kashmir region. Pakistan wanted Jammu and Kashmir to them, whereas India said we will not give it up. And thus came the whole special status, which was Article 370. It was supposed to be a temporary measure till the solution, till there was a more permanent solution to the whole India-Pakistan problem. And there was Shimla Accord, there was a UN agreement. So Pakistan, the Jammu Kashmir issue has always been in an international limelight ever since the country was partitioned into two. And the Article 370 was actually a result of that.
any follow up?
Hello?
Any follow up?
No, no.
Wait, just now,
I don't know. I was
just now.
listening. You guys ask questions.
Oh,
Uh,
because just now Oi he said that Pakistan can be like what?
What?
So because in the chat we sort of like asked, oh, it can be a what do you call a high how do you call higher soldiers mercenaries
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
for wait for who?
for India.
Huh?
What?
What?
Wait, maybe we want to clarify with Oi is like mercenaries for who?
Who is a mercenary for who?
Like Pakistan, like the Pakistan being
Yeah, yeah.
like
I mean, Pakistan for India because they're very close. In my knowledge, I know that in Hong Kong, most are we will think about the Pakistan with together with the India. This is our knowledge inside in Hong Kong people, and but also they would think Pakistan can do much more. The Indians didn't their citizens to do with that, and all job were pushed to them. So
Wait, I don't think so for now because they are like
No. I think
enemies
a lot
right
of
now.
I
Like
think there's a lot of confusion over here.
stay
So
to.
they're separate countries since 1947. They have separate armies. Nobody's a mercenary for anybody. At least I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so.
No, there's
I
just
think because like
a dispute over the region, Kashmir, right?
Yeah,
K-
the main dispute is over Jammu and Kashmir, mostly Kashmir. Kashmir is northern part of Jammu and Kashmir. It's the valley. It's where all the mountains are, and it also has one of the highest battlegrounds in the world, the Siachen Glacier, and it's a very strategically located. Uh, it's geographically and strategically located. So anyone who has control over there basically has control over the region because of its fantastic geography and topography. All the mountains.
Okay, and so how are the tensions between Pakistan and India now over this? Is it still very much heated up?
Yes, I mean, it's been more than 70 years since we've got independence, but the whole India-Pakistan issue has not settled down, not even a little bit. It's historical enemies, always was, always will be, unfortunately. And most of it is political. Because now what has happened is, apart from the whole India-Pakistan politics, and there's the whole Hindu-Muslim also that comes in. And
Mm-hmm.
there's been a lot of Islamophobia here in India, where majority Hindu, there 33% Muslims, 6% other minorities, including the Jains.
Yeah,
Mostly we're Hindus here, 60% at least.
yeah, I've heard that like they actually distribute people among Pakistan and India by their religion at first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the Pakistanis would be all those are Muslims at first place, and then India is the rest. Is that right?
No, I'm not entirely sure what you're getting at, but if you want to talk about numbers, then India still has more Muslims, in fact, one of the largest populations of Muslims anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even 33% of 1.6 billion is quite a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. But now, like India's trying to ditch Muslim, like at least if not to ditch them, like discriminate them, like by law. That's
Yeah. So here what has been happening you can trace a heightened sense of Islamophobia since 2014. We had the national elections, which is called the Lok Sabha elections, and that's when the Bharatiya Janata Party came to power. They came with an overwhelming majority. I think they won some 200 plus 230 seats, or maybe even more. It was basically a clear majority. They have never ever won with such a mandate. Um, and the BJP is basically the political arm of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak, the RSS. They're a Hindutva organization. They propagate a Hindu nation. They want a Hindu nation and everything that goes with it. So, any of the policies that they have may not overtly be discriminatory, but it has lines of discrimination to it. For example, you can think of NRC as an issue, the Citizenship Amendment Bill. All these are not discriminatory per se, but then there are traces of discrimination which are very particularly targeted at the Islamic society in this country. And that is troublesome because, as per the constitution, we are a social, secular, democratic republic. And this Bharatiya Janata Party wants to change that.
okay. So for example, like in a CAA, wait, is it NRC or CAA? It's the
All are
NRC.
the same.
Okay.
NRC, CA, NPR, they're all different versions of basically the same thing. This is just a there are steps to each of them.
Yeah, right. They are all connected. So, why do you think they like very specifically mentioned Muslim in that bill or in that act?
Yes, they have. Like I mentioned, uh, there is discrimination going on over here. They do want it to become a Hindutva nation, and the obvious scapegoat here is the Muslims. I mean, if you look at what happened during World War II, you can actually basically draw parallels between what the German Reich did in 1930s to what is happening right now.
Yeah, okay. So I wonder like how did the government make sense of that? How could they just quote Muslim in there and tell people like this thing makes sense to you? How are they delivering this to their people?
When it comes to the people, like I mentioned, the people over here are a majority of Hindus. 60% are Hindus, and
Mhm.
they all agree with Hindus and Muslims don't mix. So they agree with what the policy. They agree with the policies of what the party is coming out with because they voted them. I mean, we had they were voted in for a second term last year in 2019, and they won even more seats. So if a party is saying we're going to make it a Hindutva nation where Hindus will reign supreme and Hindus will come up on top,
Mhm.
which Hindu would want that?
Okay, but don't they find it weird that like very specifically it's mentioned Muslim because it's not mentioned as non-Hindus or those things. It's very
No, it's a,
particularly Muslims.
so India has six minorities. Minorities means Hindu being the majority. There are six other religions that have been given the status of a minority. This is a
Right.
constitutional term.
Mm-hmm.
Muslim, Jains, Sikhs, Buddhists, Christians.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's five and one six Muslims. So these are the six minorities. In the Citizenship Amendment Bill, any person who is a minority, apart from the Muslims, will get automatic citizenship. This is the sum and substance of what the bill is all about. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the idea officially on paper and what how they've sold it to the international community as well is that those who are facing persecution will be given automatic
Constitutional term.
citizenship, but as they are very silent on the whole Muslim aspect, they haven't really given a justification for it. And anyone who's asking or anyone who is pointing this out, India is simply saying it's an internal matter and it does not concern the international society.
So they don't even try to explain why would they like not include Muslim in there. They are not even trying to
They simply
explain.
don't say anything. In fact, they're going out of their way to explain that it is not discriminatory towards the Muslim. And this is something which is how they get away with any and all um explanations. Uh, they don't really justify because their constant rhetoric is that we will get the Muslims out, we will get the termites out, we will get
Uh, wait. Um.
that's been their constant mantra. And in a country where we're still 70% agrarian, where our economy is still dependent on agriculture, we're still a developing country. All this makes sense to people.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Can you just repeat what you've just said? Because I think just now you cut off and we can't really
I'm
hear
sorry.
you. I'm sorry. Can you
Can
just
you hear
repeat
me
that?
now?
Yes, right now it's fine.
Okay. So, as I was saying, when one is asking the government to justify the Citizenship Amendment Bill,
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh.
no, you lost me again.
Oh yeah. Now you're back. Okay.
Oh, I'm back now.
Yes. Now it's fine.
Okay. Um,
Do you see maybe like the connection dropping, like one
I
stripe
have
or
full
something?
network.
Okay, so it's fully green.
I don't see any colors, but yeah, yeah, I'm fully green. Yeah.
It's very strange. Like sometimes when you start talking, then suddenly it starts cutting off, like a
Oh,
huge silence. It is very weird. I've not
okay.
seen this
Maybe
before.
I was walking and talking, so I'll just stay put. I won't walk and talk.
Okay, that could be it. Could be it.
Okay, so I'm sitting, I'm staying put. I'm in one place now. If
Well,
everyone can hear.
you were explaining that they're actually justifying discriminating against Muslims, and they're actually saying like this is not discrimination at all, and they were saying like,
Yes,
uh,
it's not so according to them, they're not singling out the Muslims. What they're simply saying is that this bill will help those who are being persecuted in the neighboring countries. The neighboring countries, they mean Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. They have stayed silent about China, whom we also share a border with, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Burma, Myanmar. So they've really not spoken about any of these. They've only spoken about Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And they are saying that Jains, Sikhs, Buddhists, uh, Parsis, and Christians, they're being persecuted. So they are welcome to come to India, where we're a plural society, and they will get automatic citizenship. Like I mentioned, on Muslims, they are silent. They haven't included the Muslims, and they are saying that it's only for the persecuted people, and that's about what they've stopped at. When,
okay,
but when they speak at rallies, at conferences, at when they're addressing people on, when they go on campaign rallies or when they're giving speeches, if you hear what they have to say, it's very dangerous, because it is when they're speaking to the common people, is when they're saying we want to get rid of all the termites. That was one word that was used by the home minister. We want to get rid of the infiltrators. We want to get rid of uh, all these. There are a lot of unsavory language which I don't want to use. Uh, it's basically it's very obvious whom they mean, and they said we want to get them out and we want to terminate them, and we want a Hindu Rashtra, and we want our people to flourish, and we want our people to survive, and we are doing all of this for our people. So there's a lot of our people going on.
okay. So they are pretty much claiming that. So all these other minorities are being oppressed in the countries around India, and the Muslims are actually oppressive, uh,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
yeah, and they're saying that
Then
the
they bring in history. Then they say, look at what the Mughals did. Look at what, you know, the Lodhis did. Look at what. So basically, then they bring out all the Muslim rulers India had, and they speak about how unjust they were and how barbaric they were. And we're talking about Muslim rulers in the 1500s.
Hmm.
So they're going that far back in history to justify uh, what they're doing right now, 500 years later.
okay, well, if you go a century back, you're still dealing with Christians burning women on the stakes for being witches. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I just.
everywhere. I think everyone has one form of story or the other. And I think the far right is coming back to power. It's just not in India. There's this wave of far right which I'm reading about everywhere.
Mhm.
So I guess it's, I think, just something everyone is dealing with in their own way.
And I just wonder about one thing, like, India as a country for such a long time, um, it hasn't been such a problem that, like, people consider non, I mean, like the minorities, they
Mm-hmm.
were not for such a long time considered a threat to the majority religiously. Yeah, so.
No, so the Hindu Muslim problem was always there. This was always there. The Britishers, when they ruled India, they kind of instigated the Hindu Muslim fire a bit more because it made administration for them easy. And it didn't really die out. It kind of flamed and fanned, and it's been there ever since. If you speak to any Indian family, be it if you speak to any Hindu family, their only refrain is, our people, always stick to our people. This is one constant that we were always told while growing up. We don't want you to marry anyone. We're happy to accept everyone, but please don't marry a Muslim. And same with my Muslim friends. They were constantly told while growing up, we would be happier if you married within our community. Please don't marry a Hindu. So the Hindu Muslim enmity has always been there. It did not help things when our country was partitioned along religious lines. So if you look at they basically took into account which villages were Muslim majority, which villages were Hindu majority, and that's where they drew the boundary. Even the migration that happened at that time, it was the largest migration at that time, 1 million people back and forth, Hindus and Muslims just switching villages and countries because Muslims from here left en masse and went to Pakistan, whereas the Hindus and the Sikhs from there came here. So it has been, it's always been there. Uh, Hence the whole minority tag also. According to me, this is my personal view. Uh, I find it a very derogatory term. I
Can
am
you
a
just
Jain.
repeat? Can you just repeat that part, like according to your personal view, and then after that you just cut off a little bit.
I said according to me, and this is strictly my personal view. I don't like the term minority. I don't like the tag minority. Uh, I mean, I am a Jain. That is a religion, and I'm officially a minority. But I'm a fully functional being. I have a brain. I have thoughts. I contribute towards taxes. My taxes aren't minority, they're full majority. So this tag that is stuck, the minority tag, I just don't like it. I think it's very discriminatory, but that's how it is. And that's how even the Muslims always looked at. So if you pick up any Indian newspaper, if you read a paragraph, say the minorities were targeted in so and so society and they were victims of whatever, I'm just making things up. But when you read the word minority, even though there are six official minorities, you know that what they're talking about is a Muslim.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
So
I think it is an effect of having the democratic rule without having constitutional protection enough for minorities. Like if you have like a pure democracy, you always have like the so-called dictatorship of the majority, right? And the minority
that is the
becomes
funny part. That is the funny part. We do have protection for constitution. We have constitutional protection. If you read the Constitution, everything is accounted for, everything is taken care of, but it's the implementation of the Constitution on ground that is the problem.
okay.
And therein lies the problem. Because if your Constitution or if was strong, which it is, but if the implementing authority, which is the judiciary, was equally strong, then half of problems wouldn't exist. Now, if you're telling me that
I'm sorry, I arrived
was
late, but
possible
you cut
if
off
if
after
the
Shado said
constitution
that.
would have been strong, or if the judiciary would, I don't think if the judiciary was strong it would have allowed it to happen. Now the same cancellation of article 370, the matter is pending in the Supreme Court. The petitions were filed in the Supreme Court as early as August, as early as September, and the official cancellation took effect. The official cancellation of Article 370 happened on August 5, but the bifurcation got into effect in October. So August, September, there were 3 months. The state had 3 months to prepare for bifurcation. The administration had 3 months to prepare for bifurcation. All of this time, the Supreme Court simply sat. It just sat on this. It just sat on this issue. It is still sitting on this issue. We are in March now. And the situation, the issue has still not been decided whether the abrogation or the cancellation of Article 360 was 370, was it constitutional or was it unconstitutional? So I just feel that we have all the tools. We have everything with us, but we have a very poor implementing authority. And again, all these are strictly personal views.
Okay, so do you think there's something that could be done in the judiciary part? Because
The
like,
judiciary has all the power.
mhm.
Unfortunately, at the moment, the judiciary is the one that's, again, personal opinion. The judiciary is the one that is letting us down.
I feel like uh, the fact that they're just sitting on it without making a decision always makes me feel like they are worried about like responses from international community about this, that they know that there's something wrong going on with this.
No, the judiciary does not have to worry about the international community. The judiciary has to worry about about the party that is dictating terms right now. So it's
Do you think
the
there's a
judiciary
backlash?
is an independent arm of the government. It, on paper and in theory, it has nothing to do with the center. They cannot be influenced, but as we all know, what's on paper stays on paper. The on ground implementation is obviously, it tells a different story.
So what could be done about it? What could be done to solve this problem?
There was this one advocate I used to work for. I worked with a law firm very briefly for about 3 months. They used to work on human rights, and that was when we were at the peak of the whole anti-Muslim rhetoric, and it was at the peak of the Article 370. So, do you know in Article 3, when the Article 370 was cancelled? They cut off internet, they cut off landline, they cut off mobile phones.
Yes, I've heard about that.
So in Kashmir and in Jammu, uh, they couldn't call anybody for almost 2 months. They had no landlines, they had no mobile phones, no internet, nothing. Imagine you're in a world where there are no phones anymore. Can you imagine that in today's times where everything is online? It's impossible. And I used to work with this law firm, and the senior advocate that I used to work for, he's actually pretty well known. He's one of those crusaders of human rights. So somebody asked him, sir, at this time when everything looks so bleak, what do you do? And he said, you have no way, you have no other option but to be positive and think that at some point light will shine through. So all we can do at this moment is report on what's happening on the ground, uh, report what's truly happening on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and hope that perhaps at some point somebody takes note of this truth and there is no way you can, hide from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very depressing otherwise.
I think you're right. Actually, it takes time. You have like such a large population that such processes take time, but you need to continue the pressure always, and then these changes happen very slowly. And it's sad it has to be like that, but uh,
Ah, I agree with you, but I just feel again that there are some issues that should not be put off. That should be taken on an urgent basis. There are some issues that need to be heard urgently. A
Like,
lot of issues that needs immediate attention. I'll give you just one more example. Last week, I'm sure you all know by now that Delhi, which is the capital of this country, witnessed communal riots, Hindu and Muslim riots. Uh, it went on for 3, 4 days. I mean, the main fight, like the entire area, an entire part of the city was cordoned off, and that was ground zero where a lot of clashes took place. Around 42 people have officially died, and the number keeps rising because they keep finding bodies in the drains, beat up bodies, burnt up bodies, hacked bodies, bodies racked with bullets, and they're finding them in drains. And as till even yesterday, they found three bodies in the drains. So it's a very sad situation. This is happening in the national capital when Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, is visiting this very city. There's a lot of international attention. There's already heightened security, and imagine just kilometers away, communal clashes are taking place. And the Supreme Court and even the High Court had the power to take note of this communal rights. They had the power to direct the Delhi police to do something about it, and they chose to remain silent.
Yes, I do think like these issues do have to be noticed by people, especially outside India, who could maybe pressure the government into doing something, because including this issue and the Kashmir, everything, it's so
It is happening.
almost contained into the like inside India. The outside do not know about it, not enough.
No, so that's the funny part. So the Kashmir incident, I mean, people, one of you is sitting in the Netherlands, one of you is sitting in Hong Kong, one of you is sitting, I don't know where all, but you all have heard about the Kashmir incident, as you'll call it. So it's not that it doesn't have international attention, it does have international attention. The United Nations took note of it, the US Senate took note of it, the European Parliament took note of it.
Mm-hmm.
People have taken note of it, and they have asked the Indian government, what is it that you are doing over this? And they're asking questions and they're raising concerns. But then India goes out and says, this is an internal matter. Nobody has to worry about it. We'll take care of it. It's an internal matter. We don't want any interference in this issue. And then it ends there.
And then like the news are also not brought up enough inside India as well, right? Like the journalists there are not really reporting a lot of real news. Like I've heard that they
That,
report quite a lot of fake news, and there are people on Twitter debunking their fake news, and those.
that's true.
Mhm,
That's true. So what's happening in India, there's a lot of polarization that's happened in the media. All the big corporate houses, basically, there's a corporate house that owns a majority of the media over here.
mhm,
And some of the channels are very pro-government. So they obviously go out of their way to give a very biased slant to what the news is happening. For example, if you go through, if you see any of the TV debates, 9 o'clock TV debates on any of the major news channels, you will see very, very little balanced news. You'll see a lot of partisan news, and it'll obviously, not obviously, it will mostly be very skewed towards the Hindutva ideology.
mhm,
uh, News channels which have phenomenal rating and it is watched by a lot of people across the country. And they're being drawn into this debate, which is one sided. They've been fed fake news. If you go on social media, if you go on Twitter, you'll see a lot of these Twitter handles that send out fake news. And what's scarier is that WhatsApp is very, very common in India. We use a lot of WhatsApp. We have WhatsApp for everything. I think it's become the default and de facto mode of communication right now. You have
mhm,
WhatsApp groups, you have one-on-one chats, and you have colony groups, school groups, office groups, uh, groups based on ideology, work groups, etc. And when you get messages which are unverified and which are fake in your WhatsApp, the general tendency of a normal average Indian is to believe the news. For example, can you guys hear me?
yes, yes, right.
Yes. So, for example, as I mentioned, we had the communal riots last week. Uh,
Mhm,
Me being a reporter, I am keeping track of what's happening daily. So I know that the violence kind of petered down from Wednesday onwards.
Mm-hmm.
But till last night, or rather last night, we all got messages in a WhatsApp group saying that a certain colony or a certain locality, which was in the southeast of the city, men who were basically running, and there were these rumors that there was fighting going on over there, and that is very close to where I live. So everyone in my colony panicked, and they were all wondering whether we should close our main gates and we should post guards and we should bring in additional security, because they were worried that these people would come in and they would loot their houses and they would burn their cars, and it was we were living in we were living under a siege and we were in a very unsafe environment. And that was not true because there was nothing happening.
So what do you think those people are trying to achieve by like these fake news, especially this one that scare you off from going outside?
The
What do you think
idea
they're
was
trying to achieve?
to scare people and point the needle of suspicion towards a certain group. So when you say you're scaring someone, I live in, again, a majorly Hindu locality,
Mm-hmm.
and they are being told that Muslims are going to come, and basically they are writing, and there are Hindu Muslim clashes, so all you people fear for your lives. The idea is to demonize a religion. The idea is to demonize a group of people and make them the villain,
Okay.
and it's succeeding.
Yeah, so I've just posted a link on
Manisha's report, oh, I was there. That was my,
huh?
yeah, that was my picture.
Yeah, so can
Anyway,
you just
sorry. No, you were saying?
that is not your account, right?
No, it's not my account, but I know Manisha. She and I traveled we were together covering the riots last week. She's a
Okay.
dear friend.
Okay, so can you just tell us like what's happening in the fake news?
Okay, so this report that she highlighted, it's
That
about
is
this
in the
14-year-old
Times.
boy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about this 14-year-old boy who was injured during the firing last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
A bullet grazed his lower back, and he was bleeding, but it was not, but it was since it was just a graze, he was obviously in a lot of pain, but he was not critical. In any case, the family kept trying to call the ambulance. They were trying to reach the hospital. They were trying to call the police, and the entire area was under lockdown, and they couldn't go anywhere. And the ambulance came around 4:30. This was when I was there. I had actually taken a picture of the boy. It's on my Twitter account if anybody wants to see. Um, we called the cops, we called the ambulance, and we tried for an hour while we were there, and nobody could come. Then finally, around 4:30 that evening, the Joint Commissioner of Police, he was patrolling that area with this Rapid Action Force, which is the riot police. And we informed him that there was this minor boy, everyone under 18 is a minor. This
Mm-hmm.
minor boy was hurt and he needed urgent medical attention. So that gentleman was kind enough at 4:30 in the evening to call for an ambulance or a PCR van, and which came eventually after 20 minutes, and they took the boy away. So we checked up on the boy. He was fine by evening, and the next day also he was fine. However, this India Times report basically sent out this news, or basically published this report saying that he had died or he had succumbed to his injuries, which was not true. Because I knew the boy, we knew the family, so we immediately called up and we tried to find out what happened, and they said no, the boy is fine. But these kind of reports do come out also. I think it's just a reporter hearing something, not verifying the news, and just writing a story.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder, like, how did people react to this news or these kinds of news? Do they usually know that it's fake or it's true, or they just don't believe in any news anymore?
When a story comes out,
Mm-hmm.
the first story is read. There is the follow up is not read. Whether the story is real or it's fake doesn't matter anymore because the story has already made an impact.
Mm-hmm.
This is again my personal reading of what I'm seeing is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So there are these websites and there are these organizations that do nothing but bust these fake news.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at before the Delhi riots, if you look at the violence that happened in the Jawaharlal Nehru University, I don't know if you guys know about that, but JNU is this central university.
Okay.
It's always had this tendency to lean left, and it's very political, and it's, the students are a bit communist in their ideology. It's known for its great debates, and it's known for theories, and it's known for campus politics. And to go to JNU, you have to be, you're known as a liberal if you're in JNU, and there is this tag that comes with being from JNU. And the government is trying to basically shut this down. They don't like dissent. They don't like uh, plurality of thought. They don't like communism. They don't like the left, and they definitely don't like liberals.
Mm-hmm.
So JNU had there were these students. Again, we don't know who they are, but we can obviously guess as to who they might be. They entered the campus and they created havoc for hours on end. And the police stood outside at the gates. They did not enter the university and they did not stop any of the violence. Um, Now, in this, there were two narratives that were coming forth at the same time. There were students who were live tweeting the violence with pictures saying, "Oh, look, this person is here to beat me. Look, these are the students that are being targeted.
Mm-hmm.
These are the dormitories that have been caught on fire, which were mostly Kashmiri and Muslims." And there was basically a lot of um, the police, when they finally did enter after many, many hours, they basically ransacked the library. They arrested students who were studying in the library that had nothing to do with any of the violence. That was one narrative. The other narrative was students of the ABVP, which is again the student arm of BJP,
Mm-hmm.
which was saying, "Oh, look, these left students are attacking us and we are just defending ourselves." Then they posted a picture of the JNU has its own student union. So they posted a picture of the president of the student union, who was very badly beaten up, by the way. And they faked the picture, like they photoshopped a picture with all her injuries gone and with all her, bandages and everything gone. And it was the next day, and they basically tweeted, "Look, yesterday she was hurt so much, and what happened to her injuries today?" So
So
that's the kind of fake news that comes out.
okay, so can I like take that as when you have a news, you always take two sides of them? Like there are always two sides of the story circulating around when there's a news coming out, or like is it like that?
As a general rule, as a reporter, you take both sides of the story. That's just sound journalism. But
Yeah,
what's happening here is
I mean
when
like
a narrative is coming up, can you hear me now?
uh yes, I just want a very quick follow up. So like for the
Yeah.
people,
Hmm.
not particularly journalists, do they always get delivered two versions of the same story?
No,
No. Okay.
no. Because, uh, as I said, the polarization of media does not allow for a second point of view.
Mm-hmm.
It does not allow for a second narrative. So if there is one news coming out, that's the only news which is coming out. This news will most often most often be something that is approved by the ruling party, or it's approved by the government, or it basically is beneficial to the government. The other narrative, or the real news, if you want to call it, or the other side of the coin, can only be read about in very select websites, very select channels, mostly on Twitter, but that's about it. And the reach of these select websites, channels, or Twitter does not go down to the masses.
So, do the people actually know that the other version exists? Like, they don't always hear about that, but I is it true that occasionally they hear the second version? How do they take the
No,
second version?
they think it's false.
Okay, so they're not even aware that the story that they're delivered are almost always the version that the government want them to hear. They're not aware of that.
Mm, uh, I think they don't really think about it so much. They just take it on face value. For example, if I tell you something that's happening here
Mhm.
as a journalist, you'll believe me. You will not necessarily look for another point of view. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, I feel that we have this problem here too. That then there's like a big story and it will be like on front page, and then even if it's not true, then
Mhm.
the retraction will be like on page 5, and no one will read it.
And it'll be two lines,
Yeah,
the
like two little
retraction.
lights, yeah, somewhere hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there is this tendency to believe what you read in the newspapers and what you see on TV.
yeah, yeah. I know. I think we're dealing with similar problems everywhere with that. It is a kind of what is it like? An entertainment form of journalism these days. The big headlines,
Yeah.
the yeah, the how do you call it, clickbait, right?
Sensationalism, TRPs,
Yeah,
clickbait journalism, absolutely.
yeah, and then even if it's not true, yeah, then legally they have to do like a retraction. But like yeah, like we said, it's like somewhere hidden on a page, and that is sad actually.
No,
That
but
that's
they don't do that also. They
no, only
don't do
when
that
pressured,
either.
right? This is like you have
They
to.
don't do that either.
Sorry, there's a little delay. No, they don't do that either. No, I get it. It's like only when you pressure them, then it's like
And the best part is the discussion and the debates that happen in your WhatsApp groups.
yeah, because people are also they get tired of this, right? They at some point they understand that this is going on, and they just want to talk to like normal people and get like the real information, and they will discuss together. You see this on social media too. Like big TV channels are losing a battle against social media
Yeah,
because yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
which is not a bad thing, I think. I mean, but yeah, the
It
only
has its pros and cons.
yeah, yeah, it does. It does. Like yeah, you still need reliable reporting, and you don't always get that on social media.
Media is a powerful tool, and at the end of the day, it has the power to help form opinions. And you're very clearly forming an opinion, or basically asking the public to go towards, or believe a certain opinion.
Yeah, but for it to keep its authority, it needs to do a valid reporting, or it is going to lose it. It's not going to last. People are much too.
Let's see. Like I said, at some point, the truth, you cannot hide the truth. You can't hide behind lies all the time. They're just going to crumble.
Yeah, yeah, and the internet is changing these things. Even though you do have the whole clickbait thing online too, and people just click make like a fast like or a fast share. They don't even read it very much. There is access to all the information, or at least a lot of information, and so people become aware of it. So, like you said, the truth becomes known to people, and
But the question is, are the people making the effort to find out more?
The masses not, I think, but a lot of people are.
No, very few of us. But we keep it strong.
yeah, yeah, you have to, of course. Welcome back, Smiler.
I mean, like, because there's one thing I want to ask, like, is because, like, fact check. We would say, okay, we would like to fact check news, right? Then,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I mean, like, the fact checking didn't like came in until like people start to lose trust on media they ever get into their hands. So
It
people,
wasn't the people losing trust in the media. It was a select few people who realized that there was fake news being peddled about and nobody was keeping them in check.
hmm,
So it is you and I covering the same incident. I give a different news, you give a different news, but we both know which one is right. So the one who knows what is right is basically pointing out, you're the one who's saying it wrong. That's all that's happening. There was no need for it. It's basically a realization that this is required now. Even now, most of the newspapers or even the TV channels for that matter, they do not fact check before they publish. In fact, there are channels that say, please tweet first or please flash first. We'll look into the veracity of it later on if we want to. True
that's
story.
just unprofessional.
But do you think it also has to do with them actually losing ground to like social media, that they're now just like fighting for what is left, and that they want to like score quickly with clickbait and big stories?
The depressing part is they don't have to lose to anybody. They own the social media, they own the channel, they own the narrative. It's just very few people who are going against the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what bothers them. Even if you look at social media, if you look at the followers, um, each of these politicians have, or the prime minister, the home minister, it's phenomenal. One tweet of theirs and it's news. You know what's the news today, right now? Like this very instant. Uh, the prime minister tweeted at 8:30, I believe, 2 hours ago, that he's thinking of switching off from social media from Sunday onwards. That is
And
the
that's
news.
news. Don't tell me it's on the front page.
The front page hasn't come yet, but yeah, it's the news right now. You go, you check Twitter, you check the trends, and that is the news right now.
And people like help circulate that around.
He got 20,000 retweets and likes in a matter of 20 minutes.
Oh my god.
But that is news. As I'm talking to you, that is news.
Uh-huh. But are there like credible
Oh,
mainstream
do you know
media
what the hashtag
outlets?
is? Hashtag is hashtag no sir. As in no sir, please do not go off social media. That is a hashtag which is trending here in India.
Like this one? No sir?
I'm telling you, I'm serious. Go on Twitter. You'll see it right now. Hashtag no sir.
Okay. But like other than that, are there like legit credible mainstream media out there like as
Yes, there
newspaper?
are some. Yes, there are some. It's
Uh-huh.
not all bad.
Okay,
There
great.
are some.
But
Few and
like
far in between.
like what about the percentage? How many are more credible and how many are fake news?
It's tough to give a number, but let's just say those credible news, their circulation cumulatively will still not match the one publication which lets out fake news.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm literally speechless. Like, how is that even possible? Okay, no wonder why people are not even realizing it. they are told fake news, because like
Yeah.
usually in other countries, fake news are usually delivered by the minority of the media, and it's
Mm-hmm.
always skeptical about those things because very little people are talking about those things. But when fake news is the majority, then
Yeah,
oh my
it
gosh.
is difficult. What happens is the newspapers and the channels over here, their advertising revenue comes largely from the government, especially the newspapers. A lot of their advertisement revenue is, I think, 80% from government ads. So if a newspaper decides to print something which is against the government, then they'll simply pull out their ads and they will lose out on a lot of revenue. And it's very difficult to sustain otherwise.
I see. So there are always connections between the media and the government, and also even like the judiciary. Can I assume?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No, judiciary again, that's a whole different chapter. It's just, like I said, judiciary on paper has got nothing to do with anything. They're largely independent. They're a largely independent body. Uh,
Is
but
it? Because like
no,
Powerless?
if they're not
it's
doing
not
anything wrong,
powerless. I wouldn't call it powerless. It is actually, it's got a lot of power. It has a lot of, uh, there's a lot it can do.
but
It
they
should
take a
choose
stand.
to do it.
But they do take stands, and
Is it not doing something, taking a stand?
yes, when actions are needed and
Yeah,
you're not doing anything, that is kind of taking a
that is
stand.
a stand.
Yes, that is. Yeah, they're not like powerless, but they should not take stands, but they do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Even by choosing not to comment on something or by choosing not to act on something, it's still taking a stand.
Yes.
We have something known as a habeas corpus petition. Habeas corpus literally means present the body. So if someone is missing or if someone is feared to be kidnapped or by the state government, not kidnapped, sorry, illegally detained by the state government or
Okay.
say I am being held against my wishes somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You, as a friend or a family, can file a habeas corpus petition in the Supreme Court or in the High Court. And historically, traditionally, habeas corpus petitions are heard the very next day. It's the most sacrosanct rule that habeas corpus needs to be heard at the earliest. When it comes to the Supreme Court says, let's hear it after 2 weeks, or let's hear it after 10 days, or let's give the government time to file a response and then we'll take it ahead from there. And
Can you just repeat that part? I think you just cut off right now, and we can't hear more.
now, can you hear me?
Yes, right now, but not just
Uh,
then. It seems like
okay.
they
What
give
was the last thing that I was saying?
they give time for government to react and
Yeah, so
to the
yeah,
context.
that was basically about it. So habeas corpus pleas, which are traditionally meant to be heard the very next day and with utmost urgency, uh,
Uh-huh.
the judiciary is basically saying we'll hear the matter after 10 days or 20 days or 2 weeks or 6 weeks.
Okay. So the habeas corpus thing is normally that if you are like if they want to like prosecute you for something, there is like this specific term they have to do it within this time. They have to inform you that you have to appear before a court. Uh,
Yes, something like that. So basically, if I have been arrested by the police without any charge, I am being illegally detained because if you arrest me, you have to arrest me. There has to be arrest warrant. There has to be a charge as to why you are arresting me, on what grounds you are arresting me, or on what grounds you are detaining me.
Mm-hmm.
If none of these grounds exist, if you're simply holding me and not letting me go, uh, can file a habeas corpus plea asking my presence or my physical body to be present in court. That's what a habeas corpus means. Present the body before you. That's the literal meaning of it.
Yeah.
For please find my please find my family member, and the court says, oh, you know what? Let's just hear you after 20 days.
Yeah, this is weird that you actually have to do a plea to do this. Like, this already shocks me that you actually have to like plead to them to actually have the right to a habeas corpus, which is in
Yeah,
normal law should be
yeah.
guaranteed to you. I mean, this is okay. To listeners, I just want to say we are dealing with some technical issues. Sometimes we're like cutting off. We all seem to be having this problem, and we're already switching service all the time. Uh, Still, it gives these problems. I'm not sure what's going on.
I I don't know. I guess.
I've not seen it before, so this is the first time we're dealing with it this bad. Like, but just have to be patient, I guess.
Okay.
Sometimes it's perfect. I mean, it's not all the time, but it's like,
We persevere.
yeah, we have to, I guess.
Story of our lives.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you all wanted to discuss, or can I
Oh, I do
go?
have a question for you. Like, I mean, you're a journalist. I
Sure.
know that. Like, so how do you did you follow the whole Assange situation with WikiLeaks?
I was reading about it, but I didn't closely monitor it. But yes, I do know what was happening. I do know what happened.
Yeah, like just to say it simply, he just published some damaging materials about the United States, and they're trying to get him extradited, right? And he is not a United States
Mhm.
citizen, so he's just a journalist, and he only published.
They tried to extradite him on rape law, on charges of rape.
Yeah, but that is already no longer relevant. They already removed all that, but they're now trying to just get him extradited for publishing
Mm-hmm.
about these war crimes in Iraq, but done by the United States. They were like murdering civilians and two Reuters journalists, and
Mm-hmm.
he published that on WikiLeaks. And pretty much the only thing he did was publish, but he is not from the United States, and they are trying to get him extradited. So why it matters for journalists is I think like they can do the same to us, right? If we publish something, like
Yeah,
I'm from Netherlands and I
that's
publish something
true.
about USA, they can also do the same to me. They can ask for my extradition, and I think they can do the same to you as well from India.
It is happening here. Journalists who are speaking out against the government are being targeted.
Yeah,
News channels that are speaking out against the government are being targeted. So it's happening here as well. Persecution against those who do not follow the party line is happening.
do you know that happens to like foreign journalists too, or is the Indian government trying that? Like, what if I would write about the Indian government? Would they try this with me too?
So far, I have not heard of any case that it has happened. But and I do know foreign publications that have written anti-government stories, because the Kashmir situation, I was there. I was in Kashmir when it happened in August. Uh, it was the foreign publications that were the only publications printing the truth. Rest of the publications, the Indian channels, they basically said everything is normal when nothing was normal. I don't know of anyone that was personally targeted. I know all of those reporters are still working and they're all fine and they're doing their jobs, still doing their jobs.
Yeah, I have heard from Indians that like the Kashmir thing, it's not even reported as like a problem in India. People thought,
No, it's everything is normal.
yeah, yeah, they've heard like Kashmir is fine. They are protected right now, so everyone's alive and well. That's
Hmm.
that's the version they heard. So I think like real journalism is not an issue to the government. It's not a threat because
No, so we have a joke that we say. We call it the Kashmir model. So everything is normal in Kashmir, just like everything was normal in Delhi last week.
it's a good joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, a sad one though.
Oh well. Was that it?
I think Amber would like to raise that. Um, Amber.
Yeah, since we were talking about privacy violations, we could also talk about Aadhaar that I mentioned
Aadhaar,
to my
yes.
phone. Yes, that you said that when you mentioned it on social media, it really attracted a lot of interest.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch you.
When you mentioned it on social media, you said that it drive a lot of interest. So can you talk about Aadhaar a bit, please?
Aadhaar is basically uh, it is a card. It's basically something which is basically a 12-digit number that identifies you. To get this Aadhaar card, you have to give your thumbprints, fingerprints, and your iris scan as a measure of identification. You have to also give your name, address, phone number, etc., etc. This Aadhaar card is then linked to everything. If you do not have an Aadhaar card, you will not get services. The main reason for introducing Aadhaar was to help the marginalized or basically the poor people get benefits. If your bank account is linked to Aadhaar, then any benefit, monetary benefit you were getting would have gone directly to the bank account, and this would basically cut out the middleman. So a lot of corruption which would happen through the middleman was negated. That was the idea.
Mhm.
But since the past 6 years, they have made Aadhaar compulsory for everything. And the reason that they've given is to cut down on corruption, to cut down on black money, to cut down on uh, basically it's also to find missing children. Say if with Aadhaar we'll help you find missing children. With Aadhaar everybody will get subsidies. With Aadhaar everybody will get benefits, and with Aadhaar we will unify everything. That will be a one stop identification. They made it compulsory for school admissions. They made it compulsory to open bank accounts. They made it compulsory to get SIM cards. They made it compulsory to get ration. Ration is basically where poor people can go to these government grocery stores to buy groceries and daily essentials at a subsidized rate. So to get that also you have to have an Aadhaar. Aadhaar is managed by an independent authority. They have they have all your details, um, and they've basically linked Aadhaar with everything. So this is basically the sum and substance of it. Can you hear me?
We can hear you
Yes.
fine. We could hear the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah. Aadhaar was meant to be voluntary.
Mhm.
As per the act, it is voluntary. Uh, I can choose to have an Aadhaar if I want. If I don't want it, I can opt out of it. But even though the act says it's voluntary, it was made compulsory. If I don't have an Aadhaar, then I will get penalized. If I don't have an Aadhaar, I will not be able to pay my tax. And if I'm not able to pay my tax, then obviously I go to jail.
Mhm.
And that's putting it mildly. Um Aadhaar also, basically, if you don't have an Aadhaar, then don't have, you're not allowed to. I don't know how to explain. It's basically you cannot do anything without Aadhaar now. Everything is linked to Aadhaar.
Yeah, and I've read even from a few hours ago that they're now giving like big fines if you don't connect your stuff to that Aadhaar thing.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
also
pan.
read. No, you go ahead. Go ahead first.
No, no, please. So you have to connect, link your PAN card to the Aadhaar now, and if you don't link it, then you'll get penalized for it.
Yeah, and something else
Isn't that
that really worried me was I read. This is from from yesterday. That a lady, a mother of Santoshi, who died of starvation when her rations were stopped due to lack of Aadhaar, and she testified before a Aadhaar tribunal in at the Indian
Yes.
Social Institute in New Delhi.
Yeah.
There seem to be starvation deaths of children now due to this, to linking failures.
Yes. Uh, backward in the basically for the poor people. If I, as a person, if I'm not poor. I mean, I'm not very rich, but I'm not poor either. I can afford to buy groceries. I don't want any benefits from the government. So, if I don't want an Aadhaar, I could have very well opted out of it. But I don't have that option anymore. And the Supreme Court has also repeatedly mentioned that, but on the ground, again, this was not followed. The government made it compulsory. If you don't have an Aadhaar, you don't get anything.
Okay, a small part was missing for it, but I think I got it, and that is that the Supreme Court had said that it was voluntary, right? But it was not followed.
Supreme Court said that it is if somebody does not have an Aadhaar, you cannot deny him benefits.
Okay, yeah,
So if I go to the hospital and I don't have an Aadhaar, the doctors cannot deny me treatment.
yeah, that's how it should be, of course. And but everything
Yes,
is
but that's not how it is.
and everything is connected to it, like traveling on the trains
Yes,
and getting rations and doing taxes and
yeah, getting ration, traveling on trains. So if I'm born, I will not get a birth certificate if I don't have an Aadhaar.
Oh,
incredible.
but I think a lot of people in India don't see it as a problem. They
You
enjoy
cannot get
the card.
married without an Aadhaar.
Hmm?
You cannot get married without an Aadhaar. If you want a marriage certificate, you have to present your Aadhaar. Death certificate, you have to have an Aadhaar. To get school admissions, you have to have an Aadhaar.
Hmm.
so? Can you tell us why this centralized problem creates privacy violations?
Aadhaar, the details are kept on a server, which is basically in a centralized location. Uh, all of the details of every single Indian in this country is on that server. So if someone decides to hack that server, then they'll basically have access to everything. If they have access to my Aadhaar, then they have access to my entire life. They'll have
True.
access to my accounts, they'll have access to my IT returns, they'll have access to every everything that is me over here. Because like I said, everything is linked to Aadhaar.
True. So
And
also, I heard that on Aadhaar you have to use your fingerprints, for example.
yes, so to get an Aadhaar card, you have to submit fingerprints and you have to give your iris scan.
Hmm. And do people
So
find
there
it
are
a problem?
Aadhaar centers where they take all your fingerprints, they take your iris scan, and then they give you an Aadhaar number, and that's going to be your Aadhaar card.
Do people find it a problem to submit those information of themselves?
Um, there were people who found it a violation of their found it violation of their privacy,
Hmm.
and they felt that it was invasive.
Yes, it is.
Personally, for me, Uh, my concern was not my fingerprint or my iris scan. I mean, at the end of the day, I maybe I'm being too naive about it, but I was okay with sharing that information. But when you have a inherent distrust in the custodian of all your private details, then you have an issue with parting with those private details, and that's what my concern was.
What was your private details? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it clearly.
Fingerprints and iris scan.
I mean, what was your concern? I'm sorry.
My concern is that I have a I do not trust the custodian of this material. Whom
Right.
I'm giving it to? I'm giving it to the government. I don't trust the government that the government will keep it safe. I don't trust that the government will not misuse it. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust that the government will not sell this to other private entities, which they have done, by the way, uh, for their own benefit.
Exactly, because they actually sell data of people to organizations, and
Yes,
in some cases
it's not
to
just
unknown.
organ patients. It's not just organ patients. So they have sold these. So data at the moment is highly sought after, especially demographical data. It's very helpful for pollsters. It's helpful for these in elections, especially. It was very helpful. It helped the parties basically decide which locality or which individual would vote for them and which would not vote for them, which was the main concern. Then they've also sold these details to telemarketers. So, randomly you start getting calls from these bank guys, or you get calls from these uh, travel plan, whatever. I mean, it's annoying at the end of the day. And you have random people who have your phone numbers and they're just going to call you at all days, at all hours of the day and night, selling you things. And that's just a very small aspect of the larger concern that your private details, which is your name, address, telephone number, has been sold to God only knows how many people and what they're going to do with that information.
Exactly, and you said that Indian constitution is okay, but the jurisdiction is the problem, and it creates problems for minorities. And in this case, if an organization biased against minorities get certain people's data, then they could actually use them to go after them.
That is the concern that Aadhaar would be used as a surveillance tool because it has the authority, like the government has the authority uh, to use Aadhaar as a survey. If they choose it to be, they can use it as a surveillance tool. Like I said, Aadhaar is linked with everything. So if I want to buy property tomorrow, I have to have an Aadhaar card to register the property. So uh, the main concern was that the government would basically use Aadhaar to track the people, to see who did what, who went where, who is buying what, who is earning how much, etc., etc. Um,
Exactly,
yeah.
and this should be stressed more because other countries and unions like European Union follow such examples, and as they see, it could be applied in large regions like in India. They also see that it is possible to apply it.
Yeah. Also, when the so the Aadhaar Act came in 2017. It was challenged in the Supreme Court as far back as 2014, if I'm not mistaken, when it was introduced on a pilot basis. Um, the judgment came out sometime in 2018 or 19. I'm not sure when. I think it was 19. And at that time, also, the Supreme Court said that you have to have checks and balances in place, and you also have to have a data protection bill or a data protection act in place to protect the data that you are taking. The data protection bill is just in its draft stage. It has not been approved yet. It's not an act yet. So we're basically we're giving money to a bank which has no doors, to give a very, um, to give a simple analogy.
Right.
Right, and I just wonder, like, for now, do you know whether the Indian government is trying to implement or develop a facial recognition system in India?
I'm not sure how far they are, but I think they may already be thinking about it along those lines, or they may have some pilot cases going on somewhere. But to be honest, I don't really know. I'm not
Mm,
aware of any such case on an active base.
I see. Because like this Aadhaar card, if working along with facial recognition, it sounds like surveillance would be like full over everything because they get your face and then they also get the data of where you've traveled from. Like if you get on a bus
Yeah,
and
so
you
I
face
think
with that card, and then that would be dangerous. Like they could track
if I'm not
everyone all the time.
if I'm not mistaken, one of the districts in south of India
Hmm.
is currently doing this. I'm not entirely sure, but I think this is happening in Hyderabad.
Okay. Yeah, it might happen everywhere. I mean, we
Yeah.
already have this
Uh,
entire system, by the way. I just want to mention that real quick. That's already happening in my country, and it's fully operational. So
but it's there, and it's also been there at the US airports for a very long time.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that
If you
is
go to
only
the
for
US airport,
airports.
they do take your pictures and they do run it through whatever database that they have.
Yeah, a lot of airports have that, but only in airports. Not like everywhere on the streets. They're gonna like
we
check
have
your
this
face
in our
So
country. We have this
Hyderabad
already
airport, Hy-
on the streets.
Hyderabad airport also
on the
has
streets.
facial recognition on a trial basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh,
So it started.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more difficult for a country the size of India, but I mean, in China, it's already way ahead. Uh,
If
but in
China
here,
can do it, India can. The population of China is way more than India at the moment.
that is true. That is true. Still, it's a huge operation to undertake. The whole digital travel thing, we have this too with the chip, and they can track wherever you go. And the street cameras, they do have facial recognition already. They have about 3.5 million people with who are in the database, which is about, I think, 30% of the population. For now, it is restricted to people who have been either convicted or people. Yeah, they thought they were criminals. I mean, they were actually, when they showed up at the police station, a picture had to be made, and these are all inserted in the databases. So it is restricted to. Yeah, but so even if you're innocent, you were never convicted, but you like someone reported you to the police, and you had to like visit the police station. Pictures were made. They're already in the database, so it's not much better
Wow.
here. There are huge privacy watchdogs talking about this, but so far it's not changing. So it is, yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, like I mentioned, I think the Hyderabad airport, which is in the south of India, has started facial recognition on a trial basis. So I'm guessing it started somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, at some point it's going to be abused, and maybe it will be all reversed, but uh, not yet. I mean, but if you're talking about centralized storing of data, then of course it's dangerous because it's only protected as much as the weakest link, right? There can always be a corrupt employee selling your data or framing you for
Um,
something.
I guess. I mean, like I said, there were supposed to be checks and balances in place, and it's supposed to be there on paper, and there are um, laws protecting against misuse, but again, every law is liable for misuse.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
And of
have.
course, when it comes to transportations, it is very common that surveillance is used through personal data. Most of the time, digital entrances are used, such as using credit cards, and it directly connects to person's personal ID, so that it is tracked where this person goes through their travel. With Aadhaar, it's even much worse because, like you said, it's a centralized platform and it connects someone's all kinds of data together.
But when you talk about travel, if I am traveling by train from point A to B, intercity, uh, if I don't have my Aadhaar, it's fine. So it's not compulsory. Even if I'm flying from one city to another within the country, I don't have to have an Aadhaar. Or even if I'm going anywhere, I don't have to carry my Aadhaar. It's not compulsory. And even if I do carry it, it's simply as a means of identification. Because when you go to airports or you go to train stations, then you have to show an ID. And Aadhaar is one of the IDs you can show. But I more often than not, in fact, I've never carried an Aadhaar as a form of ID. I've always carried a driver's license or my voter ID card as an ID. So they can't really um, they don't really need to follow me, but even if they wanted to, Aadhaar is not one. At least I don't think this would help them, uh, track me or trace me. They have other ways to do that.
So,
Okay.
so like it is possible even if you have an Aadhaar that you don't use it. Is it correct?
I
There
don't
is no
use
like.
it. I only need an Aadhaar basically to run my bank accounts and to pay my tax.
Okay. So even if you have it, it's not necessarily that you have to use it. Like if they know that you have it, you still can like use an alternative to pay, right?
As an alternative to an ID, yes. But as I mentioned earlier, if I want to get admission in some school, if I want to study, I have to give my Aadhaar details to get admission into a school. If I want to get married, I got married last year. So when I got married, when I went for my registration, I had to submit my Aadhaar. My husband and I both had to give our Aadhaar details. I have to have an Aadhaar for my bank accounts. I have to have Aadhaar for my income tax. So anything that is major, if tomorrow I give birth to my child has to have an Aadhaar to get a birth certificate.
Mm-hmm. So
If
like those.
somebody suddenly, passes away, to get their death certificate, I will have to show an Aadhaar card. So it is required for anything and everything that is major, but
Mm-hmm.
it is not necessary simply to travel from point A to B. But of course, it's different for those who are poor. If they want benefits, if they want to get subsidy from the state or from from the government, then yes, they have to have an RP.
So it's anything related to the government would need an
Need
AHA.
an RP. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything you wanna get or anything you wanna any service from the government.
Anything and everything. If you want to interact with the government, you better have an Aadhaar. If I'm buying a house tomorrow, if I want to register my property, if I want to buy a car, I have to have an Aadhaar.
Okay. Okay, that sounds pretty intrusive. Then it's like a digital replacement of like a social security number, but even worse.
Yes. So if I buy jewelry, because India is a very savings oriented society, we're not really credit heavy society. I don't know if that makes any sense. Um, so to save money, we put them in mutual funds in a banks, or we just buy gold. We have a little money, we buy gold, and we save the money and we buy gold and we keep the gold in our bank accounts and we put them in our lockers, and basically we convert all the liquid money we have to gold. So if I want to buy jewelry, and over here marriages are a huge business, it's like $1 billion industry here. So if I'm getting married and I'm buying jewelry because I'm getting married, if I spend anything over 1 lakh rupees, I have to have an Aadhaar card. Like I have to present my PAN card, and PAN card is the Aadhaar card. So indirectly, I'm giving my Aadhaar card for any purchase of over 1 lakh rupees.
Okay. And as reasons they gave this is it has to do with like stopping money laundering and all these things.
Yes. This is basically to stop money laundering and black money. Black money is nothing but money in cash, large amounts of money in cash, unaccounted for money.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't that the same reason they actually wanted wanted to tell want to what to not to tell the people not to use the one, I think the 1,000 note rupee note within like I don't know how many hours.
4 hours.
Yeah,
That was
like
epic.
because like the same reason they explain like money laundering, bad money, all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
they say that we are not gonna use that 1,000, is it 1,000 rupee or
Yeah.
10,000, one
No, no,
thousand.
1,000. 1,000. That was epic. Literally, 7 o'clock, the Prime Minister comes on TV and he starts by talking about how he loves his country and how the brothers and sisters are meant to be together and blah, blah, blah. And 7:15, he starts, oh, so, by the way, 500 rupee note and 1,000 rupee note are no longer currencies from 12 o'clock onwards. And we're like, what?
Oh my god. Like was everything like everyone like
That
running to exchange this.
Forget exchange. I had no money. I went to the bank and I remember we were in office, we were filing stories because 7 o'clock is when you sit to write your stories, right? For newspapers.
Hmm.
You have a deadline, you have to give stories before 9 o'clock. And this colleague of mine, she's like, you know what, I'm going down to withdraw some money. Do you want some? I'm like, no, it's all right. I'll withdraw later because, I'm filing a story right now and I don't really need money right now. And I had like 10 rupees in my wallet. And while she's waiting at the ATM withdrawing money, this gentleman comes on TV and he's like, oh, by the way, 500 rupee note and 1,000 rupee notes are no longer in circulation from midnight. And there was pin drop silence. That's 80% of the currency which he just said is no longer money. And we were like, what the hell? Literally, what the hell?
How can they do this like the same day? That's shocking. Like
And he said, banks are going to be closed for 2 days.
oh my
And we're
god.
like, what? So,
Yeah.
you say that 80% of the currency is no longer money. So, basically, what is in my wallet right now is tissue paper. And you're telling me that the banks are closed for 2 days.
Yes, I've heard that the banks don't even know this thing would be like n- they would not use the bill within a few hours. So banks themselves are not even ready for this. And also, of
No,
course, the people, and it was in
nobody knew,
chaos, right?
nobody knew about this. The finance minister didn't know about it. The finance minister was informed, oh, by the way, dude, your currency, we're basically going to not allow 80% of the currency. So chill, dude. It was literally like that.
Was there any reason given? Like, why would this happen? Like, is only for to avoid black money?
It was to basically counter, flush out black money, as they said. It was to bring all the money back from the Swiss banks because
Mm-hmm.
apparently we Indians are so rich that we have money stashed away in Swiss banks. and it was to counter money laundering. It was basically to stop the terrorists from using money to attack us, whatever that means. Also, it was ridiculous.
Right.
But
And
yeah, in 4 hours, he said money's not going to work anymore. 8th November 2016.
and also like afterwards, I've heard that they give you a very short period of time to exchange your old money into the new ones, even though it's
Yeah, I
hardly
think it was
still
given
possible.
time till 31st December.
Hmm?
31st December.
So like, what was the period? How long was it?
1.5 months.
Okay, yeah, and I've heard that a lot of people like found themselves hiding some money in some places after that, and then
Mm-hmm.
it
It
just
wasn't accepted.
yeah,
They
and the
lost their
period
lives.
was really short. Just imagine some people like have some cash at home, and then they went somewhere to work or study. It's not even possible for them to change the money back to the new notes.
It wasn't just that. It was basically what happens is a lot of women they hide money,
Hmm.
as savings,
Oh, yeah.
family thing to do. But they hide money, like it's their kitty money. They hide it for a rainy day. uh,
Hmm.
they have if they have 100 rupees for groceries, but they'll end up spending 90 rupees, they save the 10 rupees. It's a very, like I said, it's a very savings oriented society. So
Hmm.
yes, you save money in the banks, but you also save money in your lockers, you save money in your cupboards, you save money in your pillowcases and under your mattresses. And especially women do that because in the lower income groups, unfortunately, there's also alcoholism and there's domestic abuse. So
Hmm.
women save the money so that their husbands don't go out and spend the money on booze or on cigarettes or on tobacco. And this is not a generalization. I'm just giving you examples of, uh, you know, instances. This is not a general rule. But yeah, women used to save money. Old men saved money. Senior citizens saved money because senior citizens weren't very tech savvy, so they couldn't really go to banks and ATMs and withdraw money or do, uh, online payments or use credit cards or anything of that sort. We're still very cash oriented.
Hmm.
So a lot of these people, they saved money at home, and then overnight they had to just wait in the queue for hours on end, waiting to exchange the money. And more often than not, that they had to go back home because the lines were so long that uh, they couldn't reach the front, or they couldn't go inside the bank before the bank closed. Or uh, um,
Or
a
the money ran
more common reason was that the bank simply ran out of money.
out. Yeah, not
The bank
even.
ran out of money. And this didn't achieve anything. They said that the idea was to flush out black money, but all the money came in. All the money came in. 13 lakh crore.
Yeah, I don't think they're really. Uh,
13 lakh crore money came in.
that's the money of all the nations.
That was the money of our nation, yes, in circulation.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think they're really trying to like account for the black money. They just try to centralize all the money for themselves. They must have like have some
I
plans for that money. But
It's really difficult. There are a lot of theories that have come forth over why this happened,
mhm,
but it's just tough to really understand or accept because one really has to appreciate how difficult that time was. It's for a lot of people died in the line. They died out of
yes.
panic, they died out of heat stroke, they died because they just couldn't take the pressure, they couldn't take the disappointment, they couldn't bear the loss. A lot of, I know personally, uh, a friend's uncle passed away because no uncle no auntie. My friend's auntie passed away because she couldn't take it. She couldn't take the pressure. She couldn't take the uncertainty. She got a heart attack and she died.
Yeah, I have heard the same from people, and also that like farmers, because they do not live in the cities area, they live in rural, and then they have to travel
Mhm.
to the city
To the
to go to
cities
the
which were
banks.
kilometers away.
Yes, and then the banks run out of money, and then they suicide because they have so many cash because they're farmers. They're not used to doing those like internet transactions,
Yeah,
and everything
yeah,
was in
understand.
cash, and
Lots of
everything just
stories.
went into waste. Yeah.
Lots of stories from that time. It was a very, very tough time.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it was great talking to you all. I'm really sorry, but I have to sign out now.
Okay, thank you so much
Thank you
for
so much.
joining.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, we will
Good night.
we'll continue this later.
Yeah,
Thank you. Have a good night.
thank you. Yeah, good night.
Yeah. Guys, what do you want to do? You want to like continue with the virus updates? And
Yeah, sure. Um, or we can talk about Nepal even though they are not here, or we can just talk about it next time, or about Hong
We,
Kong. We could.
we
we can
should.
talk about Nepal subject, about the things that we sort of summarized with you, Smiler. But maybe we can give the
Ổn
audience
nhỉ, hồi
a
bay
There was a big discovery regarding Nepal and the whole situation, so maybe we should at least mention that.
You're talking about the MCC, right? Is it?
Yeah, but there was also like the discovery, the fact that uranium was discovered in Nepal.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
the it was the result of the research that we were doing with Smiler.
Yeah, it was us. Yeah, should we get into that right now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just a moment. You can start with that. I'm just kind of
Yeah, actually, uh,
source.
um, now that we are doing more research about MCC, we discover more with the Nepal situation when we were looking into Nepal's sign-up agreement with MCC. We saw that there were weird coincidences. For example, when MCC started their first formal sign-up process with Nepal, it overlaps with the year that rich uranium resources were also found and announced by an international scientific team.
Yeah,
Uh,
actually, so there's a team of Indian. Wait, I just can't find my show source. Okay, so actually, uranium was found in Nepal in year 2014, and the report was out on the news in June 10th. I remember,
yeah,
and it's really interesting that MCC published a document named Nepal Grows Diagnostic. So that is like they are going to reassess Nepal in the yeah, 1st of June. So like 9 days before that news was out, they are like, okay, now we're going to reassess Nepal and then consider giving them a compact, which is a long-term funding. That was 9 days before uranium was found in Nepal, and very soon after that diagnostic, they considered. I mean, they have decided Nepal is eligible, and then they started the process of drafting up drafting up a compact for them. So that's what happened. And we first found it because like some people suspected that the MCC or like US companies would want the water resources of Nepal, but it turns out Nepal is not a partner in the water resources. However, as an energy partner, and then we're starting to look at like what energy resources in Nepal would be valuable for foreign investors, and uranium is one that is very much um, interesting for them, I guess. Yeah.
There is another interesting detail that both MCC and Nepalese government states Nepal can't mine uranium. They lack the resources, they lack technology, so that they can't do it by themselves. So
Yeah,
apparently that MCC has to do it for them.
yeah, and they have actually signed an agreement that Nepal cannot use uranium for no, it didn't mention it can't use uranium. Just like they cannot develop nuclear things. I think nuclear power is also not allowed. So they can't weaponize it. They can't use it as a power, but they have the resources. And the only thing they could do if they're gonna mine it is to sell it to someone else. And I guess everyone sees the connection there. Yeah.
Yes, and in this case, of course, the buyer will be the United States.
Yes.
And the years and even the days are so close to each other that it can't even be a coincidence.
Yeah. It's like a few days away, and that also like justified why like remember uh that time when we talked about Nepal. It is really surprising to see that the MCC's agreement have to be also agreed by the Indian government.
Yes,
Like that time we didn't see what's the connection in there. Why has it like why does it have to be approved by the Indian government? And now we know that scientists, the team of scientists who found the uranium, are called the Department of Mines and Geology. That belongs to India. So that's why India could very probably be a middleman and would also be benefited in this um, uranium business. That's why they have to be approved. Like agreements in MCC and Nepal has to be also approved by the Indian government.
and also we were looking at other countries too with Smiler and other countries in Africa that MCC were doing same deals. And we discovered that the same countries were also making deals with the UN's United Nations um, African Union branch, and they were being involved with the MCC. We were wondering why, for example, Chad is in there. What is specific about them? And then we saw that they also have similar kinds of resources. Like, for example, Chad is rich with lithium.
And some other countries that are supported by the MCC, and also that time we mentioned in the list that sent their troops for the coup in Mali also has some of those resources. Probably that's why they have a partnership right there with the MCC.
Yeah, so it all comes up with rich raw material resources, makes these countries primary goals for MCC to get them signed up.
Right. And like personally, the speculation is that, uh, you know, because MCC give out a lot of funds, so there must be a list of like a long list of countries who want to receive those funds. And that's why it gives the MCC very good opportunity to just handpick those that would have those very rich resources. Like they didn't know it before, but when they know it, they can just immediately pick those countries and be partners with them in either like energy and so on.
So this way, they take over countries' resources, rich resources, and they have them sign agreements like they can't mine or process these resources, but only MCC can.
Okay, yeah, well, we all know lithium, and that's all like the new gold, right? Everyone wants it now.
Mhm.
I'm guessing the Afghanistan mountains were not enough for the Americans. Not sure if people know that there's between 1 and 3 trillion dollars in lithium in the Afghanistan mountains, and when people talk about like the opium in the country, they don't really mention the fact that lithium is like the most used thing in electric cars right now, and they're like building this whole electric car industry, and you're talking about up to 3,000 billion in Afghan mountains, and it's still not enough for them. So they now invade or colonize other places in the world for resources, including
Mm.
Yes,
Nepal.
and yes, and this is done without even investing in ground troops or doing economical sanctions. They don't even need this anymore, which is the striking part about MCC. They approach these so-called developing countries in the name of building their infrastructure and helping them. They kind of make them have to sign up with them. And then once they sign up, they become like a slave to this MCC, which is basically the US government.
Yeah.
Yes, and like I think they would depend a lot on this compact plant because they receive a lot of money from the US government, and without that money, it's very likely that a lot of business can't be continued. So they would face a lot of um, unemployment if they don't get fund continuously. And I remember we found a country, I forgot which one, that eventually got suspended their plan. Do you remember which country was that, Amber?
I can't recall it right now. Sorry.
Okay, whatever. But we found that like uh, the suspension, not termination, as if it's Mali or something. Um, it happened to be the same year of an election. Uh, Let me try.
Yes, it was Tanzania, I think, Smiler.
Oh, okay. Do you remember that part of the election? Because I remember you found that source.
Yes, I'm trying to go through my notes because there are so many countries and so many information is piling up right now.
Yeah, like 10,000 tabs.
Yes, that I see that we looked into Ghana, for example. It also had lithium production and they also signed up with MCC.
Yeah, a few countries happen to be on that list. And I think if we're gonna look into the third valuable resources right now, then we will find more of them on the list. Very likely.
Finally, we have to thank Anonymous Nepal for actually making everyone aware of this. We weren't aware of this in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And they've been doing it for a very long time, like since 2006.
Yes.
It's sad actually that is not. We should have been aware of it much sooner. So should other Anons be aware of all of this? They've been trying to like reach out about this for years. So,
Oh, I see.
so we have
What
something
other
to make up.
countries did they mention? Like,
Yeah,
what other countries did they mention before?
I'm not sure.
It's really sad that like a few countries, a few developed countries, kind of took over all the news. Like the U.S., some minor things happening in there could just make the headline. And in a lot of these countries where things that happens that also affect a lot of people in their countries and that are important are not even covered because no one
Yeah,
really cares about these countries that much. They're not newsworthy now.
yeah, no, we have to do it now, and we are like always like already overloaded. But we have to do it ourselves now because yeah, like you're saying, some countries get all the news and they're always being mentioned. They get all the attention, and
Hmm.
basically there's some unknown accounts which are very political and only focus on like U.S. politics, which pretty much matters to no one except for people actually in the U.S. Like it is very sad. Um, but well, we'll just put attention on this. I mean, we can do it.
Yeah, I feel like if we have more information about the MCC, we should certainly do another episode only on this one. We have a lot to talk about by then.
Yeah, and the Nepalese guy should just return again. The updates too.
Yes, they totally should. Yeah. Should we move on to another topic? Information is just not very organized right now.
No, it's not very organized now. But the bottom line is people should actually search for the situation in Nepal, MCC,
Yes.
um, and the fact that this could be all about resources and financial colonization. So
Yeah.
search.
Even though there are also like other countries that are mentioned as like water partners in MCC.
Yeah, well, water is also a resource now. It is monetized.
Mm.
You have the big companies like Coca-Cola, Nestle, and they are pretty much collecting the cheap water and selling it at high prices in bottles. So it is very profitable these days. Yeah.
Yeah. Put some sugar and chemicals in there, and there you have it, Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
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 Yes, so what MCC is doing is that when they approach governments, they see if they are submissive, and if they aren't really submissive, um, they keep them on hold, like Smiler said, until they find some resources, and then they try their chances again. And if they have the puppet government already, then they go on with the process. They give the money, and they process their raw materials and own them until the time that the government change hands, like in Tanzania. When the government changed hands and somebody else got elected instead of the U.S. government's people, a puppet government, then they suddenly suspended the project. And if the government is toppled by some coup, some armed coup, then the process is terminated. And then MCC and UN and African nations and EU, all of them one by one start publishing some notifications that this is not democracy and this is not acceptable, so that they strongly reject it.
Yes, this MCC thing is like, if you are going to receive money from us, then we'll first take your resources, and then we'll control your political power, like the people in power. We would like threaten to cut it down if it's not the people that we want to have it there. And then like if you're going to do something else, we would also like either cut your money or not continue the plan with you, and so on. It's actually basically just buying political power. And also like if we need troops, if the US need troops, you have to give them troops, or else they'll also like cut down the plans. And they might also be rewarded if they give them enough troops. So basically just buying political power in those countries.
And as they approach these countries, especially with the ones that have already some disputes within them, like approaching civil war or something like that, they help the main body, main government, whoever is ruling them at the moment, so that they actually become indebted to them. So when the United States needs to send some kind of troops to somewhere, then they say that we sent you some troops, we helped you, and now you have to help us. This is the exchange deal.
And those countries, once they sign it there, they have no choice, because if they're not funded anymore, the very big project would stop, and then they'll be facing a lot of unemployment, and that also means social unrest. And they can't even, like, it's possible that they would be overthrown in those social unrest. So, yeah, that's that.
Okay, guys. So we follow up on this soon with the Nepalese guys again, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps later this week. We do need to give more attention to this.
Yeah, we do need more attention. And not only in Nepal, but also those African countries.
Hmm.
Do you think it will be possible if we get a guest from those countries? I wonder.
I think so. With the time zone, we should be fine. We just need to see.
Oh, the time zone isn't a matter anymore. We don't we don't care about those anymore.
No, that like team no sleep. Seriously. Um. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe like we could be facing quality issues, but we can fix that. I think.
Hmm. Let's see. So should we mention the coronavirus?
Oh yeah, we have to scare people again.
Yeah. Now people can't call us fear mongering. It's
No.
happening. You see it.
Yeah, it's everywhere now. Like
Yeah.
extreme. Like my own country is now
Gosh. Do you just
completely.
caught the virus?
I hope not. Like my own country is completely in chaos now. Seriously, 3 hospitals already closed. Like intensive cares are being closed, and the people are like freaking out. Like I think there are 19 cases now. Like over the last few days, suddenly from 1 to 19.
I think it's like in 3 days.
Yeah, from 1 to 19, and there's going to be a lot more. because
I
the
wish those people listened earlier, especially like the European countries, because like if their governments are going to act on it, they could certainly avoid this outbreak.
well,
And the people as well, of course.
well, I can tell you this: people always think like because China has such a large population that it is like the most populated, but it is not true. Uh,
Yeah.
Actually, the most populated area in the world is Monaco in Europe. It has the most
Oh, really?
people per square mile, per square kilometers. Like most people live there in
I
small
really didn't
areas.
know.
And we have, and the Netherlands, my own country, is also in the top 10. And we are much more populated than China per square kilometer. So the infection risk is much higher.
Mhm.
Uh,
And also, there are more major cities, right? Like in Europe, there are a lot of major cities, and people rush there from their own home countries. I mean, hometowns. They all work in those big cities. Not like China, where a lot of people actually work in villages for the farming and the food industry,
well,
right?
if you talk about a country like Netherlands or like Belgium, it can pretty much fit inside the Bay Area in California, in like a three city area there. Like we are like one big city for them. So everyone lives close to each
Mhm.
other, and that's why it goes fast now. But the only thing is that we have an advantage over the United States is that we actually already developed a test to see if people actually have it. And in the USA, they can't even test properly yet. So that is a thing. We have diagnostic tests already developed, so we can instantly see if they have corona. So
Mm. So just a very quick numbers update. Right now in China, there are cumulative cases of 80,026, where 44,462 are recovered. So we have like around 4,000 standing case, and among them, 7,000 more are serious, and there are 2,912 deaths. That is in China. And outside China, um, South Korea and Italy are catching up very quickly with the numbers. So South Korea, they've only started the large outbreak like a week ago or so. Now they already have like 4,335 cases, and among them like 26 deaths, 34 serious, 19 critical, and only 26 that are already recovered. So those are probably earlier cases that recovered. And this outbreak is huge in South Korea. So due to a lot of reasons, first of course that one of the cult members got diagnosed, and then when it's cult, a lot of people just group there together for quite a lot of time, and then that spread really quickly in that community. And the second thing is that like South Korea, uh they are very developed countries. However, the hygiene there is not as good as you might have thought. So they don't care that much about hygiene in this time, which is sad. They should totally. That's how the outbreak got worse. And Italy, there are a little bit more than 2,000 cases and 52 deaths. So the death rate in Italy is really high in comparison to the others. The death rate is actually even higher than Iran. So mm, now I think the third highest outside China is Iran, which they have 1,500 cases and 66 deaths. And a lot of European countries are also growing in numbers very quickly. um, we also have a lot of countries that just found out about their new cases. I don't know how they're gonna cope with it because um, it is also true that not all the countries are as ready as the others in dealing with this virus. So
That's true. Uh, at first, we saw the new cases actually rising less fast, but now with the whole infection in Europe and other sides of the world,
mhm,
it's going up fast again. I mean, like I think there were 2,000 new infections like within the last 24 hours.
mhm, yes, true. Just like how China started, it started with a few cases, and then because no one knows that they're carrying the virus, and so it spread real quickly. And I can see like it's China, and then other parts of Asia, and then now it's Europe. And while the numbers in Europe are growing, it started in the less developed countries. So like Africa, they have a lot of new cases, and also South America, which this is sounding really dangerous because um, those countries are, of course, they do not have as much resources, and also people are um, less aware of this virus outbreak. Um, yeah, a lot of reasons.
I did see that the death rate is now dropping. It has been dropping like since the start, I guess. It
Wait,
is now
where
6% is the no, not the actual number of deaths, but the
the death
mortality
rate?
rate. Yeah.
No, it's actually not dropping. It's actually rising. Because actually starting in China, it was like 2% and so on, like 2.2, 2.3, and then it's growing to 2.5, and now it's like 3 point something, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at this list, and it shows like the active cases and the closed cases from that Worldometer site, and
Mm-hmm.
it says like total recovered is 45,705, and the amount of deaths
Mm-hmm.
is 3,082, and that is accounts for 6%
6%?
of the total
Really?
of the closed cases.
Oh, of
That's
the closed cases. Okay. Because I'm counting only by the everything,
oh yeah, the
like the
total
cases.
cases. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah, the total cases. And in the total cases, the numbers are actually rising, the death rates.
that would be scary.
Yeah, it is. Because like first people were suspecting that China gives out fake data, even though now I still think they are not giving the true numbers. Whatever. Like it started with 2.1, and it was very constantly 2.1. Like every day the updates um of the death rates did not fluctuate at all. So people suspected it's fake. But now the death rate even in China is growing. And of course around the world as well. So for example, in Italy, the death rate right now is 2.5%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it depends on how they choose to release it, I guess. Like, uh, yeah, you can't trust governments with this kind of stuff, because they will also say like, no, this person died from something else, a certain
Mm-hmm.
complication, and it's just like they can choose what they will report on.
Yeah.
But now as we see it in European countries too, there is a little more openness with things. So
Yeah, that's why the number booms.
yeah, it goes fast now. I can tell you that. Like
Um,
Italy is
because I would
sad.
also. Hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I would totally blame the people in Europe as well. Like Italy, they actually closed down the border in 31st January. That was like a month ago, more than a month ago. That was way beyond the start of the outbreak. So the government actually did something right. They closed down the borders with China, that was the right move, even though they were not so much in threats that time of the virus outbreak. However, I can totally tell the people did not take it seriously, or else it won't be like spreading so quickly. So across Europe, people are not really aware of how dangerous this virus is. A lot of them take it as simply a flu or something even weaker than flu. They did
Yeah.
not they did not implement enough precautions. They would not avoid going to crowded places. Like in Germany here, uh, I think just a week ago or a little bit further away, they have a lot of carnivals. Um, and then it was like crazy crowded.
Yeah, they don't really care. They don't get like, but like this is the same as like inside Europe. Like all the borders are open and everyone is
Uh-huh.
just like traveling around, spreading the virus, and it's all good. Like they don't seem to care at
It's all
all.
good. Yeah. And now they're starting to panic. Uh, I don't know if this happening in your place, but people are now trying to buy everything off the supermarkets.
Yeah, yeah, it's happening here already too. Yeah.
Literally everything.
Yeah, like that's just like that. That's a typical reaction of how people are. Like last moment, and they all go crazy. They all want to like buy the tickets of the concert, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tickets of a concert.
that's how it is for them. Like, but yeah, the government is still saying like, yeah, just a heavy flu, and basically, I was laughing today. Like, someone was saying like, yeah, you have to wash your hands, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then someone else was posting like, yeah, just a reminder that you also have to wash your hands without there being a virus epidemic.
Yeah.
This is just normal.
You
This is just
always
how
do
it
it.
should be.
Yeah. If you always do it, you won't even be afraid of this thing that much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it also like crushed the stocks market. I did not follow that much on that. Could you tell us anything about that? Like the stocks?
Oh, you want? I see three fish talking about it, but I can say something about it. It's just speculation, right? If you know the stock market is going to drop, then you speculate on it. There's big money invested in. People don't really understand that you can also make a lot of money on dropping stocks.
Yeah, you
And
can buy gold and
yeah, but you can literally invest on stocks dropping. Like that's called shorting.
yeah.
And like then you speculate that stocks are going to drop further. And if you have a lot of money to invest, you just invest in that, and you become rich anyway again.
Yeah, true.
But in fact, it could like there are some industries that could actually benefit from this too. Sounds weird, but the medical industry obviously can benefit from it. If you're producing masks, you can make a lot of money. Uh,
True, and
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe those that does delivery.
Yeah, delivery companies they can benefit from it. Uh,
Oh,
more
and
will be
I've
done
heard
with
Netflix.
more will be done
Yeah,
with mail
Netflix.
order.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
So
right.
this oil companies could benefit from it because you have more people will drive individual cars instead of going into public transport.
Mhm.
There's all kind of things, and you have a lot of materials are needed for it. It's like military will be used. The healthcare industry is an expansive industry, so there like it all depends on how you look at it. But like the money never disappears, right? So
Yeah, true. It's just circulating around
yeah, it
things.
just switches hands. So
Yeah.
yeah, and gold is all yeah, like Three Fish is saying, gold is always a quick way out for people, and that also has to do with yeah, if people invest in gold, it's going to rise in price, and they want to all benefit from it. So think like this is the most interesting stock now. I'm going to invest less in Apple. I'm going to put my money in gold, and because gold is on the rise now. So yeah, it's just trends. I wouldn't think too much of that. A panic causes that stuff. They will say like industry grows less and less, which might be true, but other companies can benefit from it. You have IT companies can benefit from it. If more people stay at home, uh, watch like movie streams or whatever at home, then there's an IT community that benefits from it. People spend more time on social media. Social media companies benefit from it. It's weird to say it, but it's just how it is. So yeah, all expectations are down, and for China too, growth is down. They still say it would grow like 6% or something this quarter, China, which is still more than any Western country, by the way, in growth. So, yeah. I know you guys can mention that. I don't know anything about that arrest of that person.
Do you think we should go on? See whether she.
You can take your break if you want. I'll just talk through the dead air then.
Okay, great.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, no, no. No, because my right now it's a bit like yeah, I'm using another desktop and then I have to keep it like adjusting my mic. Yeah. So okay. So talking about the rest of Gemini. He's the owner of Apple Daily, one of the very like let's say very okay, locally famous newspaper in Hong Kong, based because of their stance on or their stance on the in the whole movement right now, and the general, more of the very general uh more of the very general stance against the government. Yeah. And oops, uh, find back my.
I can save you a bit on this. As far as I know, Apple Daily is some kind of mainstream, right? I mean, it's not like alternative media or some different voice. It's actually mainstream.
You can consider it mainstream, but actually before it gets to report a lot of like it gets to report on the movement. It's actually the like the media out itself is actually most of the time it's regarded as somehow as a bit of like, the kind of like the kind of media that would like to report on celebrities or the kind of like small little things, but
Do
somehow
you,
it got like
do you need
Also
help?
the past.
but somehow
I I want to say explain something with this story about in Hong Kong this field day because uh, Free Fisher's talking about this is I remember that yesterday or 2 days before, Hong Kong police arrested the media reporter The guys was arrested, just the reporter and just the writer of the news, to say that
Wait, who
the
was
leakings, the government internal documents, something like this. That just means the leakings. But it have 2 or 3 steps to just to the writer in Hong Kong, and I can say the police arrested reporter are not the data recovering person. It must be somebody to take in the government data and let him to read it. The media, the reporter should know what is the info and the detail in the document, and then just to write down the news. In normally sites to see this, they are damaging the news freedom of speech for the news freedoms. But I hope that we more care about is the how about Hong Kong police to looking for the leakings problem in like this. Mostly the thing, oh, say working like a hacker or something, but we can say it's not. Maybe the internal workers from the government, they just leaking the document outside to the media, and the media should have the right to choose is the open to public or open source it, and anyone can see it or something. But we can see there are tried there's not only the censorship right now in Hong Kong. That means they can use anything valid option to arrest, to charge, or take them to court, or maybe jail something to the freedom of news, like this.
Okay, because like oh yeah, I think only the you mentioned is the one who take, is it the reporter who reported the one of the leaked materials from the government, like confidential.
不如中文先啦，你係咪講緊阿黎智英俾人拉嗰單啊？
係啊，
係啊，但係黎智英拉嗰單係因為下面嗰兩個爆先噶嘛，但其實我可以講仲有兩單未拉嘅，仲有兩單未拉嘅，但係我知差佬做緊嘢嘅。一單就係爆我其實 post 過嘅就係嗰啲檢疫，即係隔離屋企嗰啲地址嗰、個未拉嘅。另外一個就係我而家噏唔起，不過你講住先啦。
Okay, so there are 2 cases that actually haven't been like arrested, but the police, but as always know, the police is investigating all of it. One of them, they leaked the list of house estates under quarantine. And what's the other one?
But I believe those are at least this one the estate under quarantine are not released by the media. It's just leaked somewhere on the internet, is it? Or is it also released by the media?
I mean, it can be normally we know that there's quite a number of like those kind of Telegram channels. They keep on like anyone inside the government, they might be willing to like sort of like to leak the information onto to these like channels and say that we have a list of useful material, please post it in the internet, and then the media was only there to propagate it. So yeah, so I think it would be very smart for the actually for the like the police to arrest the media who propagate the news instead of like to arrest like any like lame, like any normal person over like over the internet and investigating whatever it is. Wait a minute.
Why? Why is that?
I heard somehow I heard like like because by that I mean like by that you sort of like you sort of like pressing the media down, like not to do related, not to do like such reports, like to reports, then or you will get like face legal charges like that sort, and they still have to run their, I mean like they still have to run their own business. And by the way, actually this kind of I always feel these kind of like channels, sometimes it's not like it's not, sometimes you can actually like leak fake news out into the public, and then when the public receives it, they will have the kind of reaction that the government might expect, so they can sort of like manipulate what they want, what kind of like public government they want to have to their own advantage. I think that's quite I mean like sometimes, because like that's quite a problem with like cities. Is it that called citizen journalism or whatever, or whistleblowing, or just like leaking information from the government, that kind of sort, that sometimes we might not know if the document leaks are actually is the intention of the government they want to do.
Jim Day was arrested after publishing Hong Kong government leak, right? It was the internal document written by Chief Executive Carrie Lam to the Chinese central government.
I don't think the more detailed in the document are most people want to care about, because it's just the talking about or we will make the corner to focus the government not doing the bad to the people, must be like this. So I don't think the inside story or the real information or anything, numbers or index are fun for each other. I hope that its focus means on the government can use the force police to control the speaking voice in media and the freedom of something. Just this is the most important. And one thing is in the released news is only arrest the Apple Daily main media and the past CEO of Apple Daily newspaper CEO just is the Lai Chi-ying, is him. And I know that in the case with police is still under the operations to catch up the other. The other is the leakings is I posted on the Discord before, is about the嗰啲隔離屋應該點譯啊？
Quarantine centers.
Or yeah, just the
quarantine estate.
Or maybe the safety ignore apartment, something like this. Just the house of the sick people to stay at home. They have released this 6,000 address in Hong Kong inside. So I know that the police is still looking for the people to arrest, or they want to know who's leaking this information. Now, I know that is still no one are under arrest in my information I got, but I don't think it's safety for the leakers. Maybe after a week or maybe 2 weeks later, maybe we will see police will arrest other case with leaking disinformation people. So I don't think we can do anything. But I really hope that is if somebody hear our voice or can share our message, you can tell this guy to find us. We can help him or this person to leave Hong Kong right now and make him safe.
Okay, so can you give the message again, Oi?
I means if the message can spread out to that the leakings people with this both information, maybe likes the Apple Daily arrested. The talking about the topic is leakings the Hong Kong SAR government report. No. This says SAR government reported to the mainland China working reporter to talk about his work his workload, his what does he need, what's the problem with included with our SAR government challenge by the people or something. I don't try to make too much information to introduce of the document inside. I hope that everybody want to forgive this because it's very boring and kind of the Hong Kong inlocated democracy, no democracy, the politician problem. Maybe it's boring, but serious. We most care about how would the police to arrest them and what the charge will charge to the media reporter, because we think that it's very angry for each other to talk about if you talk about the media have the freedom of to release the news, but you're now here to holding down or you're leaking the government inside document that you are illegal, something like that. This police speech is all out of bullshit, and so it's I really hope in if something if the I means the people, if they need and they can prove the data are leaking from them. I hope that in my side I here can help them to leave out Hong Kong. And so what means Tree Fisher and Smiler, you got any more to think about? Because I heard about you're talking in something crash or didn't know the focus of the question, so you can explain more.
I mean, what do you mean by the crash or something?
Louder, please.
I don't really understand what you just said. Can you just repeat that? Like, what do you
So
think we should explain about?
it,
Explain or what?
I don't think serious the if you want to talk about the document inside, you can speak a little bit, but I can make
I don't
a
think it's
short
about the
summary.
document. What's important in here?
The short summary is just the CEO of SAR government right now to talk about his challenge from the people. Because his reporting is just writing. The government needs support and most to strongly 點樣我唔識譯啊呢個，即係佢講緊佢建制派都需要一啲協助，即係一啲中央嘅協助，同埋總之人撐佢咁樣，係咯。And so
Yeah, so like in that leaked document, the document was not actually published by Apple Daily to the people. However, they kind of mentioned the content of the document. So document was saying that the chief executive in Hong Kong have stated in that document to the central government that she is actually using the
Maybe they want to request more weapon, the backup support, or
Is it?
the media control in China to spread out, or maybe how to say that, just means SAR government just have a request to see, China government to how to cool down the news, or how to control the protests. But
It's actually more than that.
yeah.
So in that report, it's actually mentioned that because there will be an election for the legislative council in Hong Kong, which they would like debates law, and there that is like the place for the lawmakers. They would have an election on that in September, and she sees that it is possible to use the virus right now to change the voters' opinion about who they vote. So, because earlier last year, I think it was late November, yes, the district council, the majority of the people voted for the democratic parties or pan-democratic candidates. So the chief executive in Hong Kong mentioned that she could actually use this virus to change their what is that word? Okay, so she thinks that she could use this virus to make them vote for pro-China parties.
I mean, like they sort of want to like to be using this chance of us in an epidemic. They can perform to they can like act to it, and then so in turn they get more support for the for the pro China parties,
Yes,
political parties. So in turn it will ease her like her grip like sort of like how to control the situation in Hong Kong.
yes, they are actually trying to make the pro-establishment, or you can call pro-China party, look good by giving them credits and assisting and combating this coronavirus right now. And that is mentioned in the report from the chief executive of Hong Kong to the central government.
I mean, I actually have the sort of like had a bit of like why is the why did the document even like how did the document leak out in the first place? Because it sounded very like I don't know.
Sounds ridiculous, yeah? Who would mention that in the report? But
I don't know if because if I look at the report, it really sounded like what a government would like what it's what would they want to perform actually.
can you actually look at the report? Because I didn't find any actual report. There is only daily mentioning what's inside.
Yeah. I mean like
Can you give me a source of that?
is
That would be like
no is it sorry it's just according to that.
So that's what I say, that maybe the outside people were not very interesting about the info or anything index in the report seriously, because it's just including how about the SAR government want to pick the giving hand by the China government, something like this. It's just a normally workload report by the HK CEO government. No. Hong Kong government chief executive just mean Lam Chang Yut Mo, something like this. Just his workload report to the China, and so I seriously don't think anyone very interesting in there. But if you want to know more about this, and smaller and previous can explain something in the report. Just say that is like the government series in the weak places, they're losing in the last vote of the 區議會即係咩啊？
District council.
The district council and they need more how to say that the working department to pay to let the SAR government supported legacy means they lose in the vote people to get back the job to same how to say that it like a third party SAR government department to handle to reholding the outside control of the people like the jobs their 工會即係
workers union.
working business council something like this and just doing but but we say running through to the we interesting the topic is how does the government can damage the freedom of speech or you think about is the media censorship like this they arrested the newspaper reporter and the CEO of the news media
Yeah, it's actually really important to keep those like actual reporters in there because look at India, like a lot of media are not reporting the real news, and we have to keep the truth out there, at least in Hong Kong and especially in this time. And there are like a lot of cases recently, not only the rest of Jimmy Lai with two other MPs, but also case of Gui Minhai.
Yeah.
Should we get there or should we like talk a little bit more about this one, or should we just shift right now?
Wow. But and your topic is two different. One's from the China, and the second one, and the other is just in the Hong Kong insidely, locally.
No,
Why?
it's
Because
actually not so different because he disappeared after the Causeway Bay bookstore incident, and that happened in Hong Kong.
how to say that? This time of the arrest with the Apple Daily News Media, just we call it Next Media. This is their real name. Sorry about this. Almost talk about Apple Daily newspaper. Sorry, but it's the different things is if you talk about the Causeway Bay Bookshop, the name of the Lam Wang K, his same state in Taiwan right now, but this have a little bit different. Is Lam Wang K is disappeared in suddenly and no any people to know he's disappeared. His discovery, his disappear or missing is after he released. And before a little bit is maybe her family or her parties to report to the Hong Kong media or somebody is arrested in China. It's not arrested in Hong Kong. They have a different things. And the second is now is most open media open under the media to use the Hong Kong police to arrest the Hong Kong media reporter. This is the most different way on you talk about that in China and Hong Kong right now. It is the first time is highly and openly to the media Hong Kong police to arrest the Hong Kong media reporter because the excuse is the media to leaking the deeper or the indoor Hong Kong government data. This is the first time.
Okay, so before, I mean, like before it's the Gui Minhai, it's is the abduction by the Chinese Communist Party done in wait, is it called a abduction? The Lam Winky, the one, it's a abduction in Hong Kong, done by the CCP. But this person, he is
Was also abducted.
he okay.
Willingly.
Wait,
Maybe this will complicated the other to identify which is the Hong Kong people and the mainland China people, because in our Hong Kong side people would think they have different, but maybe out of them they would think you are Chinese.
No, he is actually a Swedish national. This person, this Gui Minhai.
So
Eh,
I think
oops.
you two are trying to introduce the different in here because serious Gui Wenhai is the citizens of the mainland China.
Oh wait,
有冇香港身
he
份證啊？
is
Nah. I mean,
係咯，just if he normally is the Chinese citizens, it's not the Hong Kong citizens. That means the arrest. I don't try to talk about this. It's easy. It's simply in China. It's very popular. Just no. Just the same. Just the different way is here is the he arrested Gui Wenhai with the China law, and this time Hong Kong police arrested a Hong Kong media reporter with Hong Kong. They say that 嗰個叫咩基本法 the basic law, something like this.
okay. Oh wait, so Gui Minhai, it's adopted from Pattaya in Thailand, but now this arrest of this Jimmy Lai, like 咩啊？ Lai Chi Ying, suddenly forget it. Jimmy Lai Ching, he is a very high profile arrest done by the Hong Kong police under the Hong Kong mini constitution, I would say, which is called the basic law. We using like I don't know what they use, like crimes like happened at like what 2007
No,
for
the arrest execution is clearly to talk about is
there were two
leaking
crimes.
indoor Hong Kong government, more SAR government documents.
Can we just
It's
Really?
clearly is talk
background
about is leaking.
first?
They arrested the media with the leakings.
Yes. Okay, let's get a little background in here. So actually, he was arrested 2 days ago with two criminal charges. First, um of his illegal assembly last year. Yeah. And
黎智英係啊，本身係。
yes, another offense that was in 2017, but that is very minor. That was about assaulting an reporter. Yeah. So
唔
he
係
was
啊，我
like
冇搞錯。佢拉個記者係告漏嘢，拉黎智英係另外兩樣嘢嚟噶嘛。
唔係，但係佢
哦
俾人 charge 另外一條就係佢咩啊？
唔知咩對唔知對個東方嗰個方向報記者仲唔知做乜鬼？
我仲以為係文匯添，佢話佢打佢啊嘛，調轉嚟
唔係啊，方向報。
Okay, so he was arrested with these two not very related crimes with his leak, like the papers leak right now. However, we all know that he's not like they would not be able to charge him with the leak. That's why they're arresting him with that. And in this very critical time, right after the leak, and everything's very much related to the coronavirus censorship right now in YouTube as well.
Oh wait, now I get it.
係啊
So
係
he's
啊
arrested for he's arrested for the leak, but they gonna charge. They know it's not going like get. They know they're not gonna get charged for leaks, so they charge them with assault and lawful assembly.
Yeah, that's it.
With the Lai Chi Ying. Yeah, just the
Yeah.
Lee, the CEO of Next Media.
Yes,
Yeah.
which owns Apple Daily and some other media, but Apple Daily is the most major one in the group. Yes, they're charging him with something else, but we all know that is from the leak because of the timing and what they are doing right now. So that is what hinders the freedom of press. And I mean, like, I can totally tell the case of Gui Minhai is different in the way how they are doing it, but the impact is the same. It's happening in the past, uh, but I mean, the impact. They are selling books in Hong Kong. I mean, the books are not allowed in China, but selling them
Oh,
in the part of
basically it's basically like gossip books regarding to like Chinese politics because you know
你
the
講邊
the
本啊？
唔知啊，佢唔係裏邊嗰啲好多嗰啲咩由黨派鬥爭嗰啲乜鬼嘛，
唔係，但係你講邊本書喺大陸禁咗啊？
大把書啊
佢
嘛。
賣好多，佢賣好多禁書喺銅鑼灣書店。OK，
我印象之中好似冇㗎喎。
有一定，你
唔係有，但係唔係佢著作，咁佢出版咗，佢有出版商啫，兩件事嚟嘅。
係啊，佢出版商啫，但係佢捉咗出版商嘛。
係啊，呢個就係問題，即係其實桂民海
哦
同埋黎智英都唔
啊，
呃
咁就係，咁呢個就有關。
So it's a freedom of press.
就係講呢度咯，頂。
So basically, that's who talk first?
Yeah, please go on.
Oh, I mean, like it's in essence, it's the same. It's to detain. It's to sort of like what how do you call that? To it severely damages the freedom of press in Hong Kong because how it's similar to the case with the Gui Minhai. It's he got he get arrested. He get abducted in Thailand by CCP agents. I don't know whatever, but basically he did get abducted by CCP agents in Thailand because of publishing. Yes, publishing or redistributing, retailing
No, he
these.
actually did not publish those books. That is
Okay,
just a
no.
store that sells books that
So
are
it's
out in China.
retailing. So
Yes.
it's like distributing and retailing these gossip books regarding to the CCP within CCP, how like gossip books about CCP in Hong Kong. Like he run a bookstore with a few of other people. So that's how like that's how and he got adopted by the CCP. So it's how in essence the freedom of press is constantly damaged over time in Hong Kong. Yeah, that's it. Is it? Or maybe you wanna like sort of like put in more information.
I mean, like, of course, I can add a lot more information into that, but I don't know. It depends on how much information do you want. I
Uh,
can comment on it, of course. I mean, like, what's really wrong with these two cases are that they themselves first did not write those things. So, like, Gui Minhai did not write those books, and Jimmy Lai did not wrote or obtain that document or wrote up that report. They are just like owners of those media. I mean, for Causeway Bay bookstore is not even an owner; it's just like a redistributor, and he is sentenced for 10 years of imprisonment in China, and that is the first thing, and that is very wrong. And the second thing is that he was abducted. He was not brought to trial legally. So first they abduct him in Thailand back in 2015, and then they brought him to China. But the problem is that he's not a Chinese citizen. He does not have a Chinese passport. He has a Swedish passport. So that's why they made him one in 2018. Gui Minhai was made a Chinese passport in 2018. So now they can trial him in 2020 and give him
what?
10
What? That was the first time I heard he was made into a Chinese citizen.
Yes, you didn't know that? I mean, like, that's one of the points that's why people are furious about that, because you know, like right now, for example, like Julian Assange, they use like real extradition laws. Yeah, they try to do it in court.
Yeah.
Like, should we extradite him? Yeah, there's like a possibility that the answer is no, and they do it. I mean, for Gui Minhai's case, they do not like go through that process. They just abduct him and then be like, okay, now you're our citizen, so we can trial you. We don't even need that fucking law. That is that is ridiculous, you know. That's that's I mean, anyone that does something that the Chinese government do not want to see, they could just abduct them somewhere and then hide them in China for long enough to make them Chinese passport so they can trial them and then put them into jail in China, which is very not humane, in like very, yeah, very inhumane. And you know, the law in China is ridiculous. It's not gonna be fair to
Yeah,
find.
yeah.
And
I mean, like,
can
I'm
I
just
just add?
speechless.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I feel like we totally should bring this up today. Yeah, another thing is that the entire time no one heard from Gui Minhai himself. The Chinese media spoke for him. The officials spoke for him. And you know what they say? They said that after this trial that sends him 10 years in China for imprisonment, he does not want to file for appeal. He just want to take those like 10 years of imprisonment. It's fine for him. He doesn't want an appeal. So he doesn't have any freedom, and no one have heard from him ever since. We don't know what's happening with him. They probably tortured him and for longer probably. So yeah, that's such a threat to um global, not even journalism, just like any persons. If you're gonna speak against the CCP or leak whatever, you could be next screaming high. Yeah. I'm
But it's
sorry,
more terrible.
I just
I mean,
raged in
the
there.
more
I'm sorry.
this time is beginning in the in located from. It's not only the people going to China and disappear. It's really common in Hong Kong. That means the basic law is totally crashed and fucking damn it. Hong Kong has no law.
Yeah, not anymore. And but the thing is, he's not even abducted in Hong Kong. I mean, like, uh, yeah, the other people, there are those that are abducted in Hong Kong, but he's not even abducted in
So
Hong Kong. So the governments of other countries are actually working with the Chinese government. Um, I suspect, let's say, I suspect.
I mean, I'm trying to introduce why I keeping to say they are not Hong Kong government. I just say that it's the SAR government. SAR government, that means the part of the Republic of China department by the government. It's
Mhm.
not really to introducing the Hong Kong citizens. So Hong Kong government, it means the people from the government to choose the government. No, how to say that? Let's
I
clear.
mean, like
The Hong Kong people to vote out the government they're trusted. But that means that's why I almost try to name them right now is SAR government. That is just the department from China government to controlling Hong Kong everything. So Hong Kong has no law. There's anarchism. It's time to anarchism in Hong Kong right now. Um, or maybe you go ahead explain something. I want to buy something with the shopkeeper. So
Bars in there.
sorry about it. I need to mute a mic on a few seconds. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
oh,
Yeah, and I mean, we can totally talk about each of those five people's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, five people's cases. Like all of them got abducted, um, in the same year, almost the same time, and Some got released,
Okay.
some didn't.
Yeah.
There's no follow up, and
Uh.
yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I actually sort of like I don't have a lot of like memory about it. The most like I think the most significant one it's like Lemon Gay he came back. He came back to he went to Shenzhen. He got detained. He came back. He was um what do you call? He was apologized on the TV
Yeah, yeah.
for harming relations, harming whatever, like harmony of relations, or the feelings of so many Chinese in China, but whatever shit it is. And then he came back and say, no, that that's how the that that's one of the techniques of CCP. They forced me to do apology. Yeah, I think that's the most like bravest part. He came back to Hong Kong and then he made a press conference and he said that basically CCP forced me to make an apology and then he went and after that he went to Taiwan. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That
we don't have Chinese to say apology to each everyone. They are the most 即係點講咧？佢哋不嬲都自傲啦、自私啦，同埋不嬲都會噶嘛。You know the Wang Chun just the China media released the reporter they say they don't lie they don't 佢話咩啊？唔講大話誠實，叫我哋參與都係假噶嘛。
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the speech of them, but they say they never lie, they are trustable, or there's something, but all is the lie, include the speech. So that is China. So I don't think you would believe that Chinese government would say anything sorry, apologize, or they're doing something wrong to something. They won't, including
okay.
this time of the virus problem in China right now. They never will say
Okay.
sorry.
So basically everything is a lie except that a lie is a lie.
And maybe
Yeah, please
you
go
say
ahead.
first.
I mean like because I wanna like see how to introduce like others. Or if you wanna like sort of like anything what you want to add in, you just add in.
Uh, not too much. Is the most talk about like this is something like the China government expect the writer to disclose or cover something. Most movie and very closely is Edward Snowden his book China. Say that to cover about the Chinese part of in the Edward Snowden storybook something. But Edward
Wait,
Snowden
sorry,
say
can you sort of like a bit repeat? Because it's a
I'm
bit like
Yeah, it's cutting off a
I'm
little
out
bit.
I'm out of the street and I don't want to speak louder as my time
yeah, I know.
as a midnight.
Yeah, because your mic is not picking up beyond the volume.
Oh, I'm
Beyond
sorry about it.
yeah.
I'm
No,
using a
it's okay.
Bluetooth and just it's like this. Talk about how about the China government uses censorship with the everything media, including network or physically both new movie or the act or the ad something 即係廣告
Okay,
Advertising.
advertising.
advertisement.
Yeah, so that's why the Chinese still hard to cover the bad news or the bad faces to introduce in China. They really don't like the North Korean to doing. So in nowadays I just the finally I just think like my saying the other 6,000 living address in Hong Kong with the whole state second person with NCOV the police are still trying to arrest the people, but we don't heard any news or act or release by the Hong Kong police. They have been arrested the people already. But I hope that, and I'm very afraid about that in a few weeks. This news was coming up. Hello.
Yeah, but I didn't hear very clearly. I'm sorry.
不如我講中文，你哋答一次。即係咧其實咪而家講緊另外嗰、個即係漏咗出嚟嗰6000幾個，其實我都話我知差佬係追緊嘅，但係未拉嘅啫。
你講6000個唔知咩樓
地址啊
？OK。
係啊係啊，嗰、個隔離單位啊，其實另外有一份就係、嗰間寫唔叫咩？我噏唔起個名嘅，突然間中文都。總之另外有一份就係佢報過啊，唔係好似都係蘋果㗎，好似都係蘋果㗎。擺咗成份 PDF 擺咗上去，我都擺過上 Discord 嘅。咁嗰單嘅話，其實就係佢咪話公開咗唔知6000幾個隔離咗嘅地方，咁即係家居隔離嗰啲啊，佢6000個俾人 list 咗出嚟咁樣，咁嗰單就未拉嘅，係啊。咁但係我覺得我哋驚緊嘅就係呢2個禮拜之內，佢都會揾個記者嚟祭旗啦。就算真係拉唔到，咁我又去轉翻個咪先嚟計。
啊，即係佢唔止拉咗黎智英，佢仲要拉埋啲下邊收料嘅人。
係啊，嗰單係未拉㗎。
拉埋收料嘅人，拉埋漏放料嗰個人。
係啊，佢應該係講緊。
即係由一條龍拉晒全部啲人。
係啊。殺雞儆猴唔止啦，所以其實呢單嘢就
係咪蘋果出㗎嗰單？你知唔知邊度？
我記得我唔記得係立場定係蘋果，因為我睇就睇立場嘅，但係 referral 嗰個 document download 我喺蘋果度 download 嘅。
OK，因為我兩邊都會。
嗰份 PDF 係。
OK。
我記得都係呢1-2日嘅。
唔係，好一排嘅啦，6000嗰個，上個禮拜嘅啦。
唔記得啦，快過之前。
你放出嚟前幾日我已經見到，somehow。OK。
但係我就 focus 都係唔係邊個放咗之後，差佬會點樣做
？Okay, so we repeat, like because there was a leak. There was a leak from the government for the about 6,000 addresses of quarantine flats, right? Quarantine apartments. Is it? Then the Hong Kong's police force is investigating. They did not only arrest the Jimmy Lai Ching, but they also investigating on arresting the person, the journalist who received the leak, and the person who leaked the information. So they were investigating and planning to make an arrest, but right now they're still finding, according to sources, according to what we said. Yeah.
Yeah, so the threat in here is like it's not only the reporter or the owner of the media that would be arrested, and of course also the whistleblowers might also get arrested if the media leaked their identity or they found something in their database or whatever. Oh, by the way, like people actually mentioned that it is possible that the reason why they are arresting Jimmy Lai at the moment is that they can take his cell phone. They actually took his cell phone. I mean his mobile smartphone, whatever, not cell phone.
Oh yeah.
And then,
right, normal.
I'm coming back.
Yeah, and then they could just take all the information that is on his phone. So that is the reason why he would be arrested. He might not even be charged at the end of the day, and be trialed. He might not be, but they just want information. from those people's phone and computers.
I
It's
mean, like we got tools. We already have tools to break Apple. Like we have tools to break Apple phones or like Androids or whatever phone it is. Is it?
yeah.
Okay, so
This
basically
this
they,
topic
they
would be like about how about Hong Kong police in Hong Kong police in local to use their cyber criminal charges, right? Is I can say that
Oh
is the
yeah.
most worst in the world. It's the most worst. It's maybe the lower than China.
I mean, like they can just like
Think
put
about
a
it.
child.
So
They can get your computer and then they put a child porn and then say, "Oh, you're arrested for child
yeah,
porn."
No, not
yeah,
even that. They can just name anything for that cyber charge. I mean,
cyber charge or
oh yeah,
something. Yeah.
they call it dishonest use of computer. So it's pretty much like arbitrary. You can say whatever, like you can call anything a dishonest use of computer. Not even, it doesn't even have to be like criminal.
No, this
Like
is the
there's a
best word from since my job or I'm the first generation arrested by Hong Kong police using this charge. But that means what I say, Hong Kong police would never take the good charge in this area of the lawful problem because Hong Kong around the past 13 years, they won't try to reduce about the cybercrime charge or the cybercrime lawful rules begin on their basic on the basic law of Hong Kong something. So they
Criminal.
mostly to use the weekly or very simply executions like the 即係不誠實使用電腦啫。你啱啱講嗰個叫咩啊？
like dishonest use of computers.
Yeah, dishonor using computer system, something like this. Just this is the only the way on the law and Hong Kong police can use to charge everyone. So it will be how to say that in Chinese we use that 白搭指控. That means you can challenge every cybercrime just using this, and
I mean, like
no need to explain anything. Just say you are dishonored to use it, then you can get in the charge. And that's all. This is very crazy. It's serious is lower than this charge like in China. Maybe in China they have something cyber law to talking about you are using the programming hacking, the networking hacking, or something. The different type of the cybercrime, or maybe you are 騙取即係 just
committing
yeah,
fraud.
or yeah, maybe stolen something, a bank account, something like this, or stolen the other personal account is very detailedly, a little bit, but not very strong, I say. But in Hong Kong, there's just only one rules to charge every every client dishonestly using blah blah blah. This crazy. So
I mean, like because it's a very they never updated the law.
but since me, I tried to hold down to rebuild the law because I would say to my lawyer team and the past the helping me lawyer, I would say that we know cybercrime is what is this happen and what is this, but we cannot let them to build it. So since around 2007, 2007 in Hong Kong, nobody's can try to push up the cybercrime lawful in Hong Kong, including the Mankin Lun or something. No one tried to put this topic in the Legislative Council in Hong Kong to talk about this because they know that it cannot do it. Maybe the normally simply like the cybercrime talk about is the one in Hong Kong terms is the network 23 rules
Yeah,
or
Article 23.
the Article 23 law in to talking about something copyright problem, but we would say the copyright would be the censorship. will become the censorship in the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
So that's all I think we can report it in this time. Just only got this information. I don't think maybe 2 weeks later we would talk. My speech will be right in the future. Somebody will arrest more with this problem, just the leaking government data or leaking the living house address, something like this. I don't want this to become true, but maybe just next week or a few weeks later, the news must be coming because I know the police are doing something for this in Hong Kong. Yeah.
Yeah. So whistleblowers are in danger, of course. Like after the media, they are going for them. I think they've been going for them like since the very beginning, but they didn't know how, or like there's no way that they could just get to them so easily, so they took the media. And there's also no free, like there's no freedom of press right now anymore. Like because Jimmy Lai is very out there. He has met actually a lot of politicians inside and outside Hong Kong. He's like famous. So the disappearance of him would really cut people's attention. So I think that's not how they plan to do it. But this arrest, even though he might not be charged at the end, this actually is like signaling war um to journalism, to the press. Yeah, they are like pressuring them to not release about government information or something that is um against the Chinese government's will, because like this is the main media, but in other smaller media or alternative medias, um there has been cases all along, like people got pushed down staircase, and then people got stabbed, yeah, they got detained by some like supposedly non-police, non-governmental people suspected to be China related gangs and so on. Yeah, it has been happening, but this is the first time that mainstream media is really got targeted. So it's very out there. The Chinese government is posing war with the press. Yeah, so I think we should like totally mention this another time as well. Yeah, maybe next time. Let's see what's
Yeah.
gonna come with the follow up with the whistleblower that you've just mentioned about the leaks of the um house detain the house isolation, house quarantine. Yeah, yeah, we should totally bring it up again. The press freedom in Hong Kong is, I won't say dying because it's dead.
We should actually cover this again because freedom of speech and free press are getting limited more and more in more countries. And this is also directly linked to Hong Kong protests.
Mm-hmm. It's very true, especially like if it goes to the level as that in India, like there will be more fake news media than real news media, then the right to know of the public would be entirely compromised. Like no one would receive real information anymore. Like the real information would be seen as fake, and the fake would be seen as new. Then, oh gosh, can't can't imagine that. Yeah, we 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 can't let it go that way. We can't let them lead to that path. Guys, you there? Okay. So, do we have anything else to talk about?
Actually, we had things to talk about Australia, but for Arya, the time is really very late, and she told me that she was sick the last days. A lot of cold and flu virus going around, as you know. So that I think that this should wait till next Sunday. Unfortunately, she had really good subjects to cover. Actually, I am sorry that she can't be with us. Also, today, in the later hours, we were going to have a guest to talk about freedom of press, free speech, Bitcoin, and a lot of other subjects, but he is also sick. So this should be covered next Monday.
Yeah, let's hope that happens. Right. Probably that's it for today.
I think so. Actually, we have a lot more, but maybe we should cover them in a separate day because as the stream goes longer, maybe the distraction happens.
Yeah, true. Like there will be a lot of cases that we can actually talk about for the entire episode. Like
Yes,
2 hours, it's possible that we could talk about those things just on their own.
definitely.
Yeah.
If you talk everything now, it will be unfair to these subjects that we wouldn't be able to cover thoroughly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we will just end it for now then. And so when do you guys wanna have the next episode?
Like Sunday.
Tomorrow, actually, we might have a guest because she's waiting to hear from us um, about Free Assange.
That okay, that one. Yeah, right.
Okay, so likely tomorrow we'll be back about Free Assange. So everyone, please share this episode around because that's what we depend on, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon.
Have a good evening.